All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
Was good.
Episode 254 is in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, podcasting, or YouTubing, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be within this in this time, guys, as we have a fun-filled show. We're going to try to give you guys as much as we possibly can because this is that weird week in between the AFC Championship, the Conference Championship games, and the Super Bowl. We know they give them 2 weeks off to get everybody rested and prepared. We know that this is going to be that weird time when Trevor and I book on Chatting with the Chiefs, talk to you guys at the end of the show, and people are asking, are you guys going to do a show this week? Because we know there's not going to be a ton of breakdowns for the predictions as to what you guys are going to see in the game, which is very difficult because I'm ready for it now. I'm ready to talk about this game now. I have all my stuff. I feel like when I was doing my notes this week, I was getting ready for that show more than even today's show. So I had to slow myself down a little bit, had to get myself prepared for today because I feel like there's plenty for us to talk about that may not have to do necessarily with just directly the Super Bowl matchup between the Chiefs and the 49ers, which we now know is the matchup, but some individual storylines that I think that go into the game that we can utilize in our preparation, in our preview, and in our prediction show. And I tell you guys at the top of every single show, and I'll tell you at the bottom of every single show, if you've not already gone to YouTube and subscribed to our channel, we hope you'll change that today. Go to the Spoken Podcast, go to subscribe, like, notify. Every time we go live, you will see that we go, and you guys can join us because we want you to join us in the chat because every single week we have a segment right in the middle of our show called Speak It, where we give you guys the platform and the opportunity to take over the show for an entire segment, whatever questions, takes, comments, concerns you guys have, you bring it to us, and we will give you guys our authentic reactions as much as we possibly can. And today is a perfect time to do that because today is going to be one of those shows we get a lot from you guys because we want to be as interactive with you guys as possible because this is a week where I think a lot of you guys have some things you want to talk about, maybe even if you guys have predictions, give us your guys' score predictions for this Super Bowl, whatever. What are you guys thinking about? What's some key matchups you guys want to talk about? Anything you guys want to talk about, anything you want to say on this show is an opportunity to do it today of all days because, like I said, we're definitely going to be diving deep into this stuff next week, so I hope you guys are prepared for that. But this is your week if you guys would like to do it because I think that there's an opportunity. And this is an exciting matchup. Let's be honest, Trevor. I mean, the 49ers kind of squeaked their way into the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have felt like they've controlled the majority of these games, even though the narrative was they were going to be beaten in every single matchup they had, it seemed like. But I think that this was an opportunity. I think this is an opportunity for us to show. And are we saying our volume's low?
Yeah, Ruben was saying, shout out to Ruben for letting us know. He said his volume. Let us know if it's my mic or Lance's mic if you guys, that way we can adjust. But yeah, they're saying the volume is low.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
everything seems to be normal.
We'll keep rocking, but just let us know in the chat if you guys are having trouble hearing me or Lance or both of us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You guys are always the ones that save the show when it comes to quality, especially because sometimes we can't hear ourselves. We don't know exactly what it sounds like from your guys' end, so definitely let us know what you guys are hearing or not hearing. But first of all, Trevor, how you doing this week, man? How'd everything go for you? Getting ready for this show? I'm sure you were excited to get to talking about this because we had a whole week to kind of relax, and the fact that we know the Chiefs have now going to their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. How you been doing this week, man?
I mean, this week in between the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl was always such a long week, right? So it was a long work week this week. Beautiful weather though here in Kansas City. So any of my KC people, they know that it's basically been a spring week. So it has been nice. It's been nice weather outside, and for someone who works outside, from like myself, it's been a pleasure. So, been enjoying that. Just taking this week to kind of soak it all in, man. That we're doing this again. It's been a good week, man. I feel good. I'm healthy. Yeah, man. I can't be asking for much more to prepare for this this next coming weekend. So it's been good, man.
Yep, you and me both, man. Like I said, I've been more than anything just been prepared, ready to go, because I feel like this is the week where people start to have some really outlandish takes, where they try to fill airtime. We know that
downplay shit.
Well, yeah, we know we now live in the 24-hour news cycle, and it's not just sports related. We're talking about all news, and sometimes I think that's where some bullshit can get compiled, where we start to listen to people that just have outlandish takes that are bought and paid for to get people to pay attention, while a week like this is technically a slow news week, even though it's right in the heart of Super Bowl Sunday that will be coming up in about a week's time. But you know, one of the things that I was paying close attention to this week in particular wasn't necessarily anybody that was going to detract or doubt the Chiefs, you know, downplay what they've done, because we've been hearing that all along the way. And trust me, we have the receipts to back that up. I've shown you guys ample amount of videos on this show chatting up the Chiefs. We've been paying close attention. But this week, I wanted to hear what people were saying from legacy standpoints, from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and a few others that I'm going to mention on the show as well. But I wanted to pay attention to that, because I remember growing up in the New England Patriots dynasty. Trevor and I grew up in that time where, you know, we were really young, watching Tom Brady, Bill Belichick dominate the AFC East, dominate the AFC, and win a lot of Super Bowls. And I remember how the conversations were had back then. Sure, every now and then you would have somebody that would doubt, you know, the Patriots or Tom Brady, but it always felt more along the lines of when they got older. When Tom was starting to get into his mid to late 30s, that's when I really felt like people were starting to doubt. And it was understandable, because of the fact that Tom was starting to show maybe his age a little bit with the way that the Patriots were continually building their rosters, which is no longer going out and getting your Randy Mosses. It was more of, let's just stockpile defense and see if Tom Brady can carry some offenses that may not be as talented. Yes. Yep. And I think that you started to see that tension rise between Brady and Belichick, and that's when that all started happening. But for their first, I want to say 12, 13 years of that run, even when the Patriots didn't win a Super Bowl for 10 years, I didn't really feel that tension or that drive to downplay what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have done. In fact, I felt like it was very much the contrary, and which is why I'm confused, Trevor. And yes, again, I believe this Chiefs dynasty, I do believe it's a dynasty now. They've been to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. And I do believe they're going to be winning many more Super Bowls in this time. I really do believe that the Chiefs are going to be at that place. We'll talk about that in another time. But even though it's still technically young in that, we're talking about a better part of a decade now where the Chiefs have dominated the AFC and have been in more Super Bowls than anybody else. And I would like to believe that would be the same. There would be a similar energy, even with the hot take generation now being in full flux. I would like to believe there would be a little bit more of that respect level for what these individual players are. And when guys put up historic numbers, in particular in the postseason, you would think there'd be more of a reverence. There'd be more of a respect. But I think because of the things that are on the outside of football that are going on in these guys' lives, I think people feel that they almost have a right now to downplay what they do on the field, because they have this pound of flesh they want to get off these guys because of the jealousy that a lot of these people have because of their success on and off the field. Who am I talking about in particular? I'm talking about Travis Kelce today. I'd like to start the show off today talking about the disrespect that I think that Travis Kelce is getting. And I know that sounds wild, because this man is dating the most popular woman in the world. He's making tons of money. He's made a ton of money. And this guy's had a Hall of Fame career. But even with all that considered, it's wild to me that outside of the Kansas City area, I feel that a lot of people don't really understand just how great Travis Kelce has been, is, and I believe will continue to be. So we had an unfortunate video come out this week from NBC Sports Boston. I'm not going to take too much away from. I've actually never heard of any of these people before, but they had themselves what I would like to call a hot take at that. And I'm going to let Trevor go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage so you guys can understand what they said in particular.
After this Super Bowl, are we talking about Travis Kelce passing Rob Gronkowski? If you take a look there, you can see the numbers. Kelce overall receiving yards, receptions ahead of Gronk, although he has fewer touchdowns and fewer Super Bowl wins. But I do feel, guys, like, no, you're shaking your head?
I think this is so disrespectful to Rob Gronkowski. If you're beholden to the numbers and you put them on the screen and you just go back, okay, fine. But if you watched football and watched what Gronk was at the height of his powers, we say this a lot, that a guy defies physics. Oh, this guy dunked and he defied. Rob Gronkowski, to me, defied physics. He should not have been that big, that athletic, with that soft of hands, able to block like a lineman, catch like a receiver. Travis Kelce is a great catcher of the football and compiles numbers. The greatest tight end of all time is that guy right there, going into the end zone with no care for his body. That's part of why it just broke down. To me, he is incomparable.
I think Rob Gronkowski is a better receiver, honestly, because of what he could do after the catch, which Travis Kelce can't do. Travis Kelce is great at finding soft spots in zones and beating coverage because he's bigger than safeties and he's faster than linebackers, and he is excellent. But when you put it all together, even as just a receiver, I would have taken Rob Gronkowski at his height over Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce has compiled, in part because he stayed healthier, but I take Gronk as a receiver, Giles. And as a blocker, it's not a conversation at all. So when you compile it all, you put it all together, Rob Gronkowski is clear, far and away, to me at least, the best tight end of all time.
Again, that was our fellas, our friends over at NBC Sports Boston.
Yeah, shout out them.
Shout out to them. Listen, I fully understand that, given the name, it's not clever or strange to me that a Boston news source would lean towards a player that played in the New England area. Totally understand it. And let me first preface this by saying that this is not going to be a anti-Gronk segment here or a take here. This is just simply stating the facts and showing you guys the evidence of who the better player is between the two. Because, again, they started this debate. I'm simply reacting to it. I didn't conjure this one up for content. I'm reacting to what a national news source is out there spewing. And if you notice, I like to take things from the very end of what someone said and kind of work its way back. If you notice what this gentleman said at the very end, when he said, well, Travis has been more of a compiler because of the time that he's been able to play longer, he's been healthier, and then you see that pause in his face. What that pause is, it's because I'm somebody that talks a lot. I can pick up on people's traits as to when they're saying things. You can tell when they're processing things in their head before they continue their diatribe. What he did right there is he tried to find an angle in his brain as to why that's a negative thing for Travis Kelce and how that somehow benefits the legacy of Rob Gronkowski. Because he literally just said himself that Travis Kelce's been a more healthier player who's been able to play longer and be more productive. Now, I don't know about you, but that usually tells me that guy, that alone gives him the upper hand. Because we've seen players in all sports, Trevor, you can testify to this. We've seen players in all sports have these big booms, these humongous moments, and then die away real quick. We've seen even to the extremes of guys like Jeremy Lin. The Jeremy Lin phase when Carmelo Anthony and the Knicks weren't doing very well, and Jeremy Lin steps in and has this month of just awesome basketball. He's averaging over 30 a game and outplaying, outdueling Kobe Bryant and having these big moments. And then it just kind of went away. Now, I'm not saying that's who Gronk is at all.
No.
What I am going to say though is Gronk was more of a flash and a pan player than Travis Kelce. And to me, the longevity of one's not just the longevity of a career, but longevity and production coinciding is to me always going to give a player an advantage in a conversation between a 1v1. So let's go ahead, Trevor, and put up these numbers just to show the people what I'm talking about. So if you look right here, these are Rob Gronkowski's career highs. And for those that are listening on the podcast, I'll spell it out for you. So Rob Gronkowski, I took Rob Gronkowski's career highs and put them all down together as one fair list, as if this was one season. So Rob Gronkowski's career highs in receptions is 90. His career high in yards is 1,327. His total touchdowns was 17. 10-plus reception games, only 1. And 100-yard games in a single season was 5. You look at those numbers, those are insane numbers. Those are some of the greatest receivers in NFL history don't put up those numbers, at least on a consistent basis. Right. Those are great numbers. The majority of these numbers right here, in fact, I believe all of these numbers came in one season. It's 2011. Rob Gronkowski was unstoppable that season. It was his second year in the league, and he became an absolute monster. But what do we also know about Rob Gronkowski? He started getting injured. So this is what Travis Kelce did in his last 16 postseason games. 126 receptions for 1,408 yards, 19 total touchdowns. 18 of those were receiving. One was throwing against the Steelers 2 years ago. I had to throw that in there. 10-plus reception games, 6. 100-yard games, 6. In other words, Rob Gronkowski's absolute best of all stats,
all those categories,
don't come close to what Travis Kelce's done in just a season's worth. Not even a season's worth now. It's 17 games now, but a 16-game schedule because that's what they had back in 2011. I just did the 16 to 16 games. Travis Kelce's been better in his last 16 postseason games when you're playing the best of the best than what Rob did just in regular season games at his highest.
Well, let alone the fact that Travis Kelce just had his best postseason game last week against the top defense in the league.
On the road.
At the age he's at, which is the same age as Gronk is currently, who's not playing football.
Yes, who's
so
been retired for 2 years.
Let's make longevity a knock on his career.
And then I love when the guy said that because I know the defense that everybody always gives Gronk because he was the better blocker. Look, I'm not going to get into that argument because I think it's foolish to begin with. It's a non-starter.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of footage out there, guys, throughout the years of Travis Kelce blocking and blowing up safeties, linebackers, you name it. This man knows how to block. He's a great blocker. Gronkowski, for whatever reason, I think the only reason that's not been brought up is because that's the only thing that people think they have left. Because the numbers, as I'm clearly showing you, are clearly on Travis Kelce's side. The guy in this video said that he believes Rob Gronkowski, because he took it a step further, he said that he believes that Rob was the better receiver, the better catcher.
Come on,
Trevor,
man.
go ahead and throw that first one. This is their career catch percentage. Rob Gronkowski, 65. Travis Kelce, 72. How about we look at their career best catch percentage? Oh, would you look at it? Gronk's 73%, which is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce, 77%, and he did that twice. In fact, he's had 3 seasons where he's caught the ball 73% or better. How about we look at, because this guy said that he believes that Gronk was better at doing things with the ball afterwards than Travis Kelce. Let's go ahead and look at the yak yards from 2018 to 2021. 2018 is when this stat became an official stat. Oh, would you look at that? Rob Gronkowski, 778 to Travis Kelce's 2,130. How about we look at their career best yak since 2018? A single season. Oh, Gronkowski 350 to Travis Kelce 648. Which, by the way, Travis Kelce since 2018 to 2021, all seasons had at least over 400 yards in yak yards.
Is there
his worst was Gronk's best.
Is there a stat for blocks thrown? Because that's what we all care about.
I guess we go to PFF and see if they want to give us one of their biased grades. Look, this is my point in all this. I'm gonna get Trevor's thoughts on this. I just. At this point, I just seriously can't believe that folks are still trying this greatest tight end of all time debate when Travis Kelce has clearly separated himself from the pack. I mean, think about it like this. Travis Kelce is so great. He's had 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and that's not even his most impressive accomplishment. Think about that. The man produces better in the postseason than anyone ever not named Jerry Rice, and he's about to pass him up as well.
Right.
So we can't even compare this man to tight ends anymore. We're talking about the greatest receiving players to ever play this game. People want to hold rings against Patrick Mahomes as to why he's not better than Tom Brady, but I can't use postseason numbers to compare Travis Kelce against Gronk and say that's case closed. Right. How does that work here? So for me, this is what I'll say about this show. I think it's time we stop the nonsense. I understand that there was a lot of people that love Rob Gronkowski, myself included, who was dominant. He was like Shaq at tight end. You just couldn't stop the guy when he was healthy. But that's the problem. He wasn't healthy a lot. And he had 1 amazing season. Travis Kelce's had 7. That's the point we need to remember. And like you just said, at 34 years old, this man just had maybe his best game ever
11 for 11.
In the postseason against the number 1 defense people were calling historic in their house, their first AFC Championship game in over 50 years. And he went in there and did that to him, had 96 yards and a touchdown in the first half. So, look, guys, I know that people get irritated by the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing, and you're sick of seeing the Chiefs winning all the time. That doesn't change the fact that we still need to pay homage to the guys that are out there and doing it every single year. We need to let go of the things that, for whatever reason, and I think it's because of the MJ culture that's poisoned a lot of the way we view things in sports in America, is that we will not move or budge off of things that we want to believe are what they are, as opposed to just accepting that things are constantly in motion. players will come around that are better than the guys we grew up loving and admiring. It happens. And it's happened again at the tight end position. Travis Kelce is the greatest thing we've ever seen at that position, and we all need to accept that as a reality because that's exactly what it is.
I just want to make something very clear. As someone who has loved the game for a long time and has watched football all of my life, Gronkowski isn't even the guy who should be talking about here. Shannon Sharp and Tony Gonzalez are both better than Gronk, in my opinion. I know they don't have the success that he has along with that, but if we're talking about talent at the position and statistics and all this and all the above, Travis Kelce is still chasing Tony Gonzalez as far as receiving numbers go, certain things like that as receiving yards. I don't understand why Gronk is like, his career was cut short. First of all, he has a lot of success. He has Super Bowls. I get it. But he's also carried alongside one of the best quarterbacks of all time and consistent top defenses every single time he's in that, making those runs. And then rode the coattails of the Tampa Bay team, which was one of the most loaded rosters we've seen in the last couple decades.
Yeah.
So let me just make that very clear. This, to me, is only a topic in the East Coast. This is only a topic in New England. This is only a topic up in that area where they're salty about Travis Kelce, what he's continuing to do at the retirement age of Gronk, and the ongoing peak of Travis Kelce. That's got to be frustrating. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get it. I get why they're frustrated. I get why. Not only frustrated because the Gronk debate, but it's married to the Brady-Mahomes debate. Right. So they got a double whammy going on, bro. They got to worry about Patrick Mahomes overshadowing and possibly pacing the career of Tom Brady's success, and they got to talk about whether, Gronk is less than the guy we're watching that's the number one target for said quarterback that's shadowing or possibly coming for the records of Tom Brady and the success of Tom Brady. So that's got to suck.
Yeah.
Because this is not old history. Tom Brady just retired.
Yeah.
The dynasty of the Patriots just ended a couple of years ago. This is not old history, right? So that, and I think as the average football fan, and let alone the Bostonians and the people of Massachusetts, they want to let that simmer. They want to let that history kind of simmer, and but the fact that the Chiefs dynasty happened immediately after that run, this run sparked immediately after that dynasty stopped in New England, damn near just after that one finished, after Brady was gone, after he beat us that last time in the AFC Championship. That was the time Mahomes, that was MVP Mahomes that year. You know what I mean? We lost, but I get it. But it happened right after that dynasty was done and Brady left.
What do you think I said last week on our show? The biggest reason why I believe people are getting the Chiefs fatigue and they're sick of all this is not just because of the actual details of Taylor Swift being at Chiefs games and all that.
That's a cop out, man.
Yeah, that's people using those as excuses.
No one said shit about Tony
really
Romo.
Upset, like you said, that we didn't get to sit here because you remember the Bulls, once their dynasty was over, people got to relish on that for 25 years.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't other dynasties lining up. It was the Lakers after that, but I'm saying for a 6 to 8 year span, we knew it was the Bulls. It was the Bulls league.
Yeah.
And we knew that for 18 to 20 years, it was the Patriots dynasty. And then right after, because you didn't have that with the Bulls. Like I said, you had a couple years in between, 2 to 3 years before the Lakers started winning off championships, between Michael Jordan's dynasty Bulls to them.
Yeah.
And I think with this, people are pissed off because, like you said, even when the Patriots were winning a Super Bowl in 2018 or when Tom Brady won in 2020,
Chiefs have arrived.
Chiefs were already there.
Yeah.
They had already gone to a Super Bowl. He already had an MVP quarterback.
Well, and Kelce had already been pacing Gronk for the numbers, too. Kelce was balling even with Alex Smith.
Yes, they bled through together.
Right.
And so there was no, like you said, no break in between. That's exactly why I said that last week as well. So I agree with you 100% here. And I just think that it's making people uncomfortable because they want to believe, like I said, that once they've made up their minds, they don't want to change off it, especially so quickly. And that's the unfortunate thing is it's too fucking bad.
I just couldn't imagine myself, and I love Travis Kelce. By the time he's done, he's going to be my favorite player of all time. My original favorite player of all time growing up was always Tony Gonzalez. I love the tight end position. It's my favorite position in football. Even with that being said, with Trav being my guy, if this was flipped and Gronk was still playing, Travis retired, I'm a diehard Chiefs fan, but Gronk is breaking Jerry Rice's records in the postseason, why would I even open my mouth?
Right.
Why would I try to make that a negative? What could I possibly, without trying to throw in blocks?
Right.
Are you kidding me? I mean, no offense, like blocks have their place. And Travis Kelce is a terrific blocker. I don't know why people try to downplay the fact that he can't block. He's too busy catching touchdowns and, 1,000-yard seasons. Excuse us. Yeah, I just don't understand, bro. I don't understand it. This is only those people that are trying to make that case. It's getting tired. Travis Kelce's going to play probably for another at least three more seasons. and this is going to, looking back on this year after these debates, people are still trying to debate who's better. It's going to be a silly thing looking back on. It already is in our minds, and reality and statistic wise. But yeah, why would I try to bring down the guy who's going to be the greatest receiving asset in postseason history?
It's also important
at the tight end position.
Gronk never played a season without Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes didn't come into the league until Travis Kelce was 29 years old, or didn't take over until he was 29.
And I also want to say one thing too. I mean, just about the Taylor Swift shit and how everyone's hating on it. First of all, she doesn't get shown nearly as much as people want to like overblow it and all that. I never talk about Taylor Swift on the show, but I just think it's funny, like the contrast between the NBA and football. How the NBA just it's celebrities nonstop.
Yep.
I mean, you watch Lakers game, you can't not they highlight celebrities all the time.
Knicks games.
I mean, Jack Nicholson is shown just as much as LeBron half the time on Lakers games. You know what I mean? So I just think that's funny how like we bitch and moan about it on football games, but you can go watch a Chargers game. You can go watch
Eagles games.
any team in a major city. They're showing celebrities nonstop. But the fact that it's in Midwest, it's a flyover state. You know, we got the biggest star, the biggest fish in the pond, and now everyone wants to bitch. And yeah, I mean, first it was a fake relationship. Now that it's official, real relationship. Now it's just cringy. Now they're showing her too much. It's just like, bro, we're here, bro. We've arrived. It feels good. It feels good being the bad guy. It feels good being talked about nonstop every single day. This is what we have to expect, man.
I loved it when we hear the people say like, well, yeah, the NFL did whatever they could to get the Chiefs, in the Super Bowl. And I'm sitting here cracking up because I'm like, if you watch the actual football games, I know like there's the people that think things are rigged, but if you actually watch the games, you'll see just how absolutely difficult it was for the Chiefs to get to this Super Bowl. For one, I don't know if you saw the stats, and we'll bring those up next week when people talk about the Chiefs get all the calls. It's actually quite the contrary when Nick Wright brought that up on First Things First yesterday, talking about how Chiefs opponents this year got the second fewest calls in the NFL, and the second fewest yards as well, penalty yards.
Right.
Then we're talking about, I'm sure the NFL, rigged it to where, let's make sure we get the Chiefs the easiest path of the road by, having the second scoring offense coming into their house in the first game when the Chiefs have been out of rhythm all season long offensively. And then let's go send them to Buffalo because everybody's calling this team scary and hot. Let's send them to Buffalo because that's going to be an easy win. And then let's go send them to Baltimore, their first, like I said, AFC Championship playoff game in over 50 years at home with the number one defense in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, who's going to win MVP. Let's go ahead and set all that up because that's going to be the easy road for the Chiefs to get back to the Super Bowl. Correct?
I think my favorite so far that I've seen in the media so far, and we got a whole other week, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're going to see some other crazy shit coming out. They're pulling out all the big guns. But I think my favorite one so far, narrative-wise, is when everyone was talking about this match between the Ravens and the Chiefs, and this being the real Super Bowl, felt like to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are saying, which I do agree. I do agree. And I'm sticking to it, unlike the people that I'm talking about right now. Now the goalpost has shifted. Now, all those same people that were saying whoever wins this AFC Championship game will most likely beat whoever comes out of the NFC. Now it's the Chiefs that are on. Now the Chiefs made it because a lot of people are doubting the Chiefs to win that game. Now that the Chiefs have won, now it's the Niners, and how Brock Purdy is gonna lead the way, and they're the team to beat now. It's just funny how that goalpost is moving, man. We're the team that we are now the dynasty. We are now the. I mean, we grew up hating the Patriots and Tom Brady for reasons more than just them winning. There was a lot of cheating scandals and things that were attached to them that made them even more dislikable. The Chiefs just continue to win, and people don't like it. And we're a Midwest small market team. When we have the Taylor Swift thing attached to it now, people want to call us cringy. People want to call us whatever. Pat's making fun of Pat's belly and all this and that. Well, you got to stop that belly first and foremost. So.
Well, I mean, when he keeps eating up all these playoff W's, I mean, he's going to have a little pooch on him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude's out there taking bodies
on him. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Well, they can move the goalposts on a lot of things. You know what they can't move the goalposts on, Trevor? Is that Travis Kelce will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Facts.
And I think that with the success the Chiefs are having, there's going to be some other posts that aren't going to be moving as much. But I do believe the legacy is going to continue to move upward for other players on this team, not just named Travis Kelce, not just named Patrick Mahomes. But we got to remember the third player of this band, if you will, that's been alongside this entire time that this team's been built upon is also Chris Jones. And you guys know, anybody that's watched, listened to this show for any length of time, and particularly this last 12, 13 months, I have been vehemently on the side of the Chiefs need to pay Chris Jones. He is still, in my opinion, a guy that's a long-term answer at the defensive line because of the fact that even though he'll be 30 this year, He's shown zero signs of slowing down.
And I want you to go on record because I agree with you.
Yes.
If it comes down to keeping one or the other, Chris Jones or L'Jarius Sneed, you're keeping Chris Jones, correct?
Put that on record right now. Chris
We're
Jones,
both on record with that.
Yes,
I'm with you on that.
Without question. I would rather have Chris Jones, and I'll break all this down. I promise you
That's
guys.
not easy to say.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's. I just want to. It's not that I want to see. And we've talked about this. I don't want to see L'Jarius Sneed gone.
Hell no.
But when it comes to breaking down the two, I can do that this offseason when we have other things to talk about.
Sure.
When that becomes more of a paramount conversation. But yes, on the record, I am on that side still to this day,
Same.
and I don't take that back at all. In fact, I feel better about it as time goes on because now we see our guy Chris Jones winning his incentives because now with each playoff win, I think he gets like $1 million, $1.5 million.
I think he gets $1 million just for going to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, and another $1 million going for the Super Bowl. I think if they win the Super Bowl, he gets another $1 million as well.
Oh, that Super Bowl paycheck goes.
So he's talking about going from I think it was 12.5, 13 million this year.
Yeah.
So he's going to hit almost $20 million this year. So he's making almost all that money back, which is great to see. I do think that there's still such a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths in Kansas City for whatever reason. You know, you guys have your right to an opinion. I still don't understand necessarily why Chris Jones has gotten such a bad rap. I understand that his representation dropped the ball, but you guys understand this is business. This is nothing personal. We know that Chris Jones has been nothing short of a great representative for the Chiefs. He's loved this fan base. He's loved this team. He's leaned into it. He's been great in the community. He's been an absolute baller when it comes to being a great example, a great leader for his teammates, and like I said, for this community. But the biggest thing also, guys, is I think Chris Jones is getting himself a Hall of Fame ballot.
I agree.
I know this sounds premature or wild because we know that it takes a lot for guys, especially at that position, to make it in. But you guys have to understand that Chris Jones is putting himself in the upper echelon of the all-time greats when it comes to numbers. So we know that right now he's fourth in Chiefs history in sacks. But we also know that now, because of the fact that he's becoming an all-decades type of player, which I am anticipating he will be, and we saw just this last year in the top 100 voted on by the players. I think he was like 6th or 7th player overall. People know what this guy is, the magnitude, the value of everything he brings to the table every single
He's
week.
consistently an all-pro. That tells you what the other coaches and GMs and players think about him too, man.
Exactly. Well, yes, and I wanted to put that out here now because not just because, like I said, I'm casting my vote to keep Chris Jones, but it's also because of the fact that he's really, like I said, putting himself in a position to be compared to the greatest of all time. So, Trevor, go ahead and throw that graph up there real quick. This is just a blind reveal, if you will, that I like to do these every once in a while. So through 8 NFL seasons, look at player A. You'll see that they had 72 sacks, 56 tackles for loss, 12 passes defended, and 13 forced fumbles. Very good numbers. And then you'll see player B has 75.5 sacks, 78 tackles for loss, 37 passes defended, and 12 forced fumbles. Anybody want to guess who maybe these two players are? I mean, you can take some stabs here, but I'll just go ahead and cut to the chase right here. Player A is Warren Sapp. Player B is Chris Jones. Now, anybody over the age of like 15 will remember what Warren Sapp was in this league.
And that Bucs defense, man.
This man was a killer. Yeah. This man is one of the greatest interior defensive linemen who have ever lived. And Chris Jones is significantly better through 8 seasons. That is over half of Warren Sapp's career. That will more than likely be over half of Chris Jones's career. And he's on a pace to blow him away in every number that's meaningful. Now, obviously, because Warren Sapp retired long before 2018, they didn't have the advanced stats where you could see pressures and all that stuff. But I guarantee you guys, based on this, Chris Jones would be beating him in those as well. Because Chris Jones, along of T.J. Watts and the Myles Garretts and the Judons and guys like that have been up there for the last 5-6 years in pass rushing, Chris Jones is along all those guys in sack totals, pressures, quarterback hits, quarterback knockdowns, passes defended, and he's coming from the interior side of things. Like, I hope we understand what we have here in Kansas City. Like, I've been painting this picture for a long time, and I have to continue to stroke this with the brush, guys. Chris Jones has been the centerpiece to a defense that has become elite. And this defense is not elite without him. Sure, they played awesome in week 1 against that Lions team, and I will forever give them that respect. But if you remove him for a 17 to 20 game sample, I promise you guys the Chiefs probably are still not playing in the playoffs right now. That's how important Chris Jones has been to the equation for the better part of 6-7 years now. Like, Patrick Mahomes is what took this thing over the edge. We all know that. We know that Travis Kelce and the GOAT-to-GOAT connection that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have is the biggest reason why the offense has been so great for the last 5-6 years. But we know, and a lot of people still believe that defense wins championships. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. All I do know is it plays its role. And we know that Chris Jones and the 2 Super Bowls that the Chiefs have won has played a massive role in both of those games. Even in the game against Tampa Bay and the Chiefs lost, you saw that Chris Jones was making noise back there. The only difference was one guy had an offensive line, the other didn't. So that is why we're sitting here looking at this guy right now, and I hope people understand that if the Chiefs can keep him, they should, because this man is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I mean, look at it like this, Trevor. Chris Jones, his story, just from all the all-time sack leaders, Chris Jones is 6.5 sacks away from passing 4 more Hall of Fame defensive linemen, not defensive interior linemen, defensive linemen as a whole.
Edge rushers, all the above.
Yes. He's already in his and that's in career sacks for every player that's ever played, and he's already passed up 5 Hall of Famers in all-time sacks. He's a 5-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, and is soon to be a 3-time champion. 3 championships. He played a vital role in winning.
He's not even 30 yet.
And he's not even 30 yet. And again, if he was showing us,
we better hope he doesn't have longevity, because then those numbers are just gonna be skewed. How dare he be healthy?
Look, I understand that the age is what concerns, but what's so funny is he's only about 6 months older than Drew Tranquill, and everyone's like, "Oh, you got to keep Drew Tranquill. You got to make sure and keep that guy." Yeah. I mean, guys, I'm by the way, I'm on that boat.
I'm team Tranquill, baby.
Yes, I would love to see the Tranquilizer stay in Kansas
Especially if
City.
Willie Gay is gone.
But guys, if we're gonna be honest here, when it comes to value, when it comes to overall, who's the better player? I mean, let's be real here, guys. If we had to choose between Drew Tranquill and Chris Jones, I think we all know who you're paying. Now, obviously, Chris is going to demand a market that's just way, way more than what Drew Tranquill could. Yeah. But the point remains that some of these guys are worth paying. And this is the biggest reason why I told you guys all of last season, Trevor, or all this last offseason about, the value of L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones. Well, go look at all of what we were talking about all offseason. We weren't talking about L'Jarius Sneed. We were talking about the Chiefs trying to get Chris Jones signed. Yeah. If the Chiefs wanted L'Jarius Sneed signed, they probably would have done it.
And L'Jarius just happened to have an all-time year this year.
And he's been awesome for the previous 3.
Yeah.
But my point is, if the Chiefs wanted to sign L'Jarius, they could have done it. Because he's not going to cost the money. He wasn't going to cost the money that Chris Jones was. Now that L'Jarius Sneed's having a monster season, it's going to be even more money for L'Jarius. Why would the Chiefs try to do that now? So this is my stance on this right now, Trevor. Before we get to the Super Bowl, I want to get the flowers to Chris Jones, who's been the single most important piece to the Chiefs' dynasty defense, and this is now at the peak of their powers, and I think Chris Jones is the most pivotal piece at all of this actually happening with Spagnuolo. Because you look at it, man, Spags, you always see him after games. Who he's around? It's with Chris Jones, because he knows that's his guy. That's his mule. That's the one guy. That's the guy that makes all this work. And I think that we need to start giving Chris Jones his Hall of Fame flowers as well, because I think he's put that resume together.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. He's like I say, like when I look at and I evaluate teams, especially the Chiefs, I look at the pillar players, the players that that I'd rather. I'm a little nervous to see what we look like without.
Yeah,
every team has those kind of guys. But on the defense, man, he's such an anomaly. He's such a unicorn-esque player. You don't have a lot of those guys at that position. We've seen the likes of in his same era, guys like Fletcher Cox, but even Fletcher Cox, guys like that are not in the same tier as Chris Jones. Fletcher Cox had some really solid years and has been a very consistent guy. But if Chris Jones can play to what the age of Fletcher Cox is, well, I think he's like 35 or something like that. Fletcher Cox has been around for a long time. If Chris Jones can continue to play that way and remain a Chief, I mean, his numbers are going to be outrageous, bro.
Right.
So that's a guy you just don't let walk. And I mean, I always said I never thought I'd see Tyreek Hill playing for another team. I really can't see Chris Jones playing for another team and wearing another jersey. That would be really tough to see. But I don't know. I have a good feeling that we find a way to keep him here. You just don't want to lose guys like that. A guy who's still playing at a high rate, a high level, and a guy that's so impactful in the postseason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let alone what he does in the regular season. We can have weeks off and be a little streaky here and there, which he's never really even that during the regular season. But when it comes postseason, man, this guy turns it on. Teams fear this man.
Yeah.
People underestimate the value of having a player on your defensive line who opposing quarterbacks, offensive linemen fear.
Yeah.
You have to account for where this man is at all times. And if Spags, when Spags in his bag and he's moving him on the edge or moving him back into the middle, having that guy, they have to account for him at all times. They have to have doubles on him at all times, consistently getting held, consistent getting pressures. The batted balls, we saw the stat between him and Warren Sapp's, the batted balls and balls deflected. That's an insane stat, dude. That's so many. It's just constant knowing where the ball's at, reading the quarterback's eyes. He is the full package of that position. I think he's right up there with the Aaron Donalds as far as like overall skill set, what they can do at that position. So that's not a guy you want to lose, man. Especially a guy. I mean, you can say he's older, but he's just going to be turning 30, and I don't see any sense of him slowing down. So that's a guy I want to hold on to for sure, man.
Well, and just to kind of dig into it just a little bit, so you guys understand why I am saying this, that when it comes to the Chiefs keeping Chris Jones, it's also because of the fact that the Chiefs are going to be able to if they really want to. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, the Chiefs right now, as it currently stands, our guy John Harrison, I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't believe I am, because according to what I'm seeing on cap structures, the Chiefs they're going to have already, just to start the season off, around $24 million in cap space. That's not including whenever they move off of other pieces to open up more cap space. I from what I know, they're going to have roughly a little over $24-ish million to start. I do expect that number to go up, and our capologist John Harrison can break all that down. But we look at the calculated market value according to SpotRack.com on Chris Jones. Right now, what they're saying he could get in the open market is a 3-year, $85.4 million deal, which would pay him around $28.5 million per year. Now, if you're asking me, do I think that's the contract the Chiefs would probably give Chris Jones? I don't believe that's the case, because I think that's what he was asking for, roughly $28 to $30 million last year. Would I have given it to him? Yes, back then. I don't believe that's going to be what he would get in the open market, unless he's going to play for a desperate team that's just got a ton of money to throw his way. If he wants to go and play for a team
does he want to do that?
Right. If he wants to go and play for a team that's just desperate, that's going to win 4 games next season, but he gets a few extra million, I'll say, congratulations, Chris. We enjoyed you for 8 years. Best of luck to you. But if I believe that Chris Jones is the guy that he claims to be, and he's as Kansas City through and through as he says he is, then I'd like to believe that Chris Jones would be able to take a little less than that. What do I mean? Is not necessarily annual value, but maybe a year less. So if he wants to get a shorter deal but make more guaranteed money, I think that's something the Chiefs would look at. So for instance, instead of a 3-year deal, give him a 2-year deal worth $60 to $65 million, where he makes $30 million a year in annual value, but you don't have that 3rd year with a massive cap hit at the end of that. So maybe if that's something he would exercise.
By the time we got to pay Rashee Rice, and, other guys.
There's going to be other guys that are going to have to pay. And this is the beautiful thing about paying Chris Jones now, is the Chiefs can. So again, look at the rest of the defense right now. Outside of L'Jarius Sneed and Justin Reed, there's nobody that they would have to pay if they wanted to keep him.
Yeah, because Nick Bolton's next offseason.
Right. Like, you're looking at a lot of young guys on this defense the Chiefs aren't paying right now. George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie, some of these key players. Mike Dana is going to go make money elsewhere. I believe they can replace Mike Dana.
Yeah.
He'll make money elsewhere. I think it's probably going to be like the Chicago Bears or a team like that. But yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to do so, because again, Chris Jones has not only earned it, but this defense still hinges upon him, a young defense that still hinges upon him. That's not expensive whatsoever, and you're not going to spend a ton of money elsewhere on this defense, so you might as well invest it in a guy that you know is going to be there day in and day out, week in and week out, that has already helped you get to 4 Super Bowls. I think it's a common sense move. I get it. The age thing is something that you might worry about, but guys, have you honestly seen any signs of slowing down from Chris Jones? Guys like him play well into their 30s. So to your point about Fletcher Cox, dude, it's been awesome, and he's in his mid-30s.
Consistent as hell.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald's going to be 33 next season.
Led some of the best defense in football still in the last few years.
Aaron Donald was fantastic this season.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about him being in the same category as some of these other guys, then we have to believe that Chris Jones has got another 3 seasons of really good football left in him. And if the Chiefs want to get him on a 2 or 3 year deal and pay him in the mid-20s per year, or like I said, expedite that 2 years, $60-some million deal, then that's something I think they need to exercise and really maybe pound at the table, because I don't think the Katz brothers are the guys that I think Chris Jones is going to allow to have these conversations next year. I think it's going to be a little bit more of an intimate setting between Chris Jones and Brett Veach, and to maybe hash this thing out, or hopefully get better representation. The fact is, though, guys, this dude's a Hall of Fame player, still, in my opinion, the prime of his career, and I think the Chiefs need to hold on to him as long as they can and get him paid, so that way he knows that this team appreciates what he's done for this team. They've already paid him before.
Yeah.
I think that he's earned that 3rd contract.
And to that point, we've already paid him before, and he's done what? Consistently played at the level he's at, the Hall of Fame level he's played at. He's never been one of those guys that took the money and just his performances dropped.
Yeah.
And I have a question too for the people that possibly don't want to bring him back or don't want to pay him or whatever the case may be, if they choose Snead over him, whatever you want. Do you think there's a scenario in your mind, and really ask yourself this question: if the Chiefs bring back Chris Jones, do you think we'll regret that?
No, there's no way.
There's not a scenario where I'm like, damn it, this is why we shouldn't have brought Chris back.
Right.
I cannot have a scenario in my mind.
Right.
This is not a Justin Houston situation. We all wanted Justin Houston to stay here, obviously, but there was a lot of contractual issues and lack of money that we had, and there was poor leadership at that time. We've let some good guys walk out the door. Now, I regretted losing Justin Houston. That sucked, but it wasn't really his fault in anything he did. It was just something that happened. This is a different situation. And in no way do I see myself being upset if the Chiefs extend Chris Jones for another 3 to 4 year contract. In no way. And I think a guy like that, you pay guys like that. You know what I mean? We were talking about this past offseason. I mean, we had back and forth on how we felt about it. We didn't like the holdout. That sucked. It was an ugly feeling because we felt like we were on the verge of losing him. And it was the weirdest thing watching him, and I know it rubbed people the wrong way at the Detroit game, watching him sit in the stands. But Chris Jones is an individual. Chris Jones is living his own life, guys. Chris Jones has a family to take care of. Chris Jones has a livelihood of his own to take care of, his own personal health. And every time Chris Jones has been on that field, he's risked that.
Well, how about this? Chris Jones last season in 2022 had a full training camp, right?
Yeah.
Had a career year in sacks, first team All-Pro. This year, doesn't practice at all with the team, misses the first game, still gets 10.5 sacks.
Right.
And is first team All-Pro.
Right. And here we are in the fucking Super Bowl, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and we have to start, like, I get it, guys. Like, we have to start, giving praise. Patrick Mahomes is obviously the biggest reason. Andy Reid, one of the biggest reasons. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, offensive line. The other guys have been stepping up and playing their role.
Right.
But we can't give Spags all this credit when, trust me, I give it to him whenever I can. Bagnolo's been in his bag all year. But, guys, the biggest reason why that's been the case is because the big man down in the middle, in number 95.
Taking care of business.
Yes. Like, everything that L'Jarius Sneed's done this season has been incredible. But, guys, it all starts in the front.
Yep.
It all starts with those guys being able to get adequate pressure and taking on double teams to open up his other guys. George Karlaftis had the season he had for 2 reasons. Because of his own work ethic, 3 reasons. His own work ethic, his natural ability, and Chris Jones taking up the majority of the attention from the offensive line. Let's just be real here. Mike Dana having a career year. Why? Because it's on a career year. He has natural ability, his own work ethic, and Chris Jones. That has to be factored in every single time. Why? Because we've never seen these guys succeed without Chris Jones. Could they? Possibly. But it's going to be a lot harder without that dude in the middle. And again, if he was already old, and let's say he was Fletcher Cox's age, I would say, you know what? It's probably time, even though he's still playing well, you're probably getting the last squeeze of that orange out of Chris Jones. This is the last of that great football. Guys, he's... like Trevor just said, he's not even 30 years old yet. Like, I know that's such a damper, like when you see 30 years old football player, interior guy. It's not as bad as you guys think it is. In fact, to the point of I've been saying about L'Jarius Sneed, as great as he's been, you guys actually have to look at it from this perspective. Cornerbacks and guys like that rely on their athleticism a lot more than the guys in the middle because they're more naturally born athletes, quicker, more agile. But once that starts to go away, they're not as great of a cornerback or defensive back as they once were. Why do you think Charles Woodson, one of the greatest we've ever seen, had a transition to safety midway through his career?
Right.
Because he knew he was losing his athleticism. Ended up having a really good career down the stretch as a free safety, but he had a transition from a dominant corner to a guy that relies more on his prowess,
IQ.
more on his experiences. Exactly.
Yep.
That is what a guy like L'Jarius Sneed's probably going to have to do if he wants to have a long career. Not that L'Jarius Sneed ain't great. It's
still young.
It's the contrary.
Yeah.
It's because he's great now that I wouldn't pay L'Jarius Sneed because you know that this is the best he's probably ever going to be. He's 27 now.
Mm-hmm.
By next January, he'll be 28. How many more great seasons do you think you get out of a 28, 29, 30-year-old corner? And that's where the Chiefs are going to have to pay him and pay him good money. And I don't think that's the right way to invest your money is at cornerback, where Brett Veach has never spent big money on.
Mm-hmm.
He's drafted 5 corners in the last 2 drafts. And again, L'Jarius Sneed, if they were going to pay him, they would have already done it to stay away from having him have a great season like this to where you have to pay him extra money.
Right.
I just don't think he's as good of an investment just from an athletic standpoint, a long-term standpoint, even though Chris Jones is 2 years older.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we know if there's a vacancy at Chris Jones' position and then there's a vacancy at L'Jarius Sneed's position, which one is going to be much more of a glaring need. It's which one's harder to replace. As great as L'Jarius has been this year, he's been incredible. Chamari Connor's looming in the mist, who's looked good in spot starts and in his play so far this season. Not saying he's luxurious, but who knows, man? The way Spags schemes these corners into great success, he's done it with everybody so far. He's done it with the Jalen Watsons and all these guys. These guys that we didn't really know who they were until they were on this roster. You know what I mean? So, replacing Chris Jones will be a much more greater task than replacing L'Jarius Sneed, as great as he's been this year. We also have another All-Pro or a All-Pro right next to him who's becoming arguably even better than L'Jarius Sneed and what he does in his craft and his lockdown abilities. It's gonna be a interesting offseason to see how things go and see what decisions the people that make the decisions move forward with. So.
And speaking of Spags, I'm gonna jump to that one first. Sure, I know we have another topic we're gonna get to in a second, but
of course,
we're on the good stuff right now, so I want to stay on the good stuff for just one more segment. I think Steve Spagnuolo is the greatest defensive coordinator we've ever seen. I'm just gonna say it now. And I know I'm because I'm sitting here talking about Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, Travis Kelce, greatest tight end I've ever seen, Chris Jones, Hall of Famer. I know all this is starting to compound, but you have to understand, guys, that only a few teams in the history of the NFL have had this type of success the Chiefs are having. In fact, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, this is the greatest 5-year stretch in the history of the NFL. So it would go from being one of the most impressive teams to the most impressive team. And all 5 of these years have been with Steve Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator. We know that in 2018, Bob Sutton was just on his last legs. Yeah. You can tell the defense is not clicking anymore. They weren't buying in. They were 24th overall defense. They cost the Chiefs a chance at the Super Bowl. And then Steve Spagnuolo came in, lifetime friend with Andy Reid. They used to coach together back in Philadelphia. They've known each other a long time. I will be honest. When I first heard the Chiefs hired Steve Spagnuolo, I was very nervous about that because his last impressions in the NFL were not good.
As a head coach, he was not good.
He was terrible as a head coach, and his defenses were trash in St. Louis. So I was kind of nervous. And Spags has had kind of a roller coaster career. He has those dominant years in New York, but struggles in New York. He struggles with the Saints. He struggles with other guys, other teams. I was a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie. But then you saw almost instantaneously the difference in Spagnuolo's schemes, the way how effective it is, all these other things that I became pretty confident. Still criticized the hell out of man, especially in 2021. That defense out the gate was horrendous that season. But you've seen more times than not, Spagnuolo's defense, the imprint is there, and he shows you what he's going to do on a week in, week out basis. And this has been his best season to date, and I think it's only going to get better from here because I think now the Chiefs, Brett Veach, Steve Spagnuolo, really have an understanding, a common ground of what Spag wants.
There's a formula.
What he's looking for in a player, and an 11-man starting crew and the depth that they have now. I think that's really starting to kick into high gear, and I think that some of these young guys are going to be here for a few more years to continue the tradition of what this defense has become. And I want you to put that up the list, the screen for me real quick, Trevor, just the results. And this is Steve Spagnuolo against any other DC out there. Now, we know that Bill Belichick won a couple rings as the Giants DC, so we'll give him credit for that, but Belichick has spent the majority of his career as a head coach. Steve Spagnuolo hasn't. So I have to compare him according to other lifers.
Yeah.
And if you look at it right there, guys, he's the best that's ever done it. Plain and simple. We're in a results business here, right? And he's about to win, guys. If they win this will be his 5th ring. He's never lost in the Super Bowl. Think about that. Or he's lost one. Sorry, 2020. Sorry, 2020. He'd be 5-1. Because this is his 5th. This is his 5th. He'd be 4-1.
He's still a young man.
He's not, 60, 61 years old.
Yeah, barely. He could coach for another 10, 11, 12 years.
That's what I'm saying, guys. I think what we have here, guys, is something that we're going to look back and realize how special this was. That I believe is at least the most successful DC. But what we saw Brian Baldinger, I almost posted the video on our screen. I didn't though. But Brian Baldinger on Twitter broke down that Steve Spagnuolo was literally creating defenses against the Ravens last week. He was showing, and I should have put the video on there, and it's on Twitter, so go look it up, guys. Brian Baldinger is one of the best at breaking down film. Him, Greg Casella, my 2 favorite guys. And Brian Baldinger he was talking about how he would send pressure with 4-man fronts and then he would sit 2 guys in the middle of the field as 2 spies against Lamar, not
constantly
one.
mixing it up.
Yeah, he'd have like Justin Reed or Nick Bolton. He'd have Drew Tranquil over here. He'd have a safety, another safety, just sitting right in the middle in case Lamar took off to either side, and then would have all 3 receivers going downfield covered in man coverage. Like, those aren't typical defenses.
No.
And that's why I told you guys from the Bills to the Ravens game why I wasn't worried at all, because that was Spags intentionally letting the Bills get what they want in the ground game, as long as they don't get the big deep shots, those big 50, 60-yard touchdowns that Josh Allen loves to live off of, right? Those home run, Hail Mary type plays. And then in the next week does the opposite, where he's like, all right, you know what, Lamar, chuck it downfield. And everybody kept talking about all week, why the hell didn't the Ravens run the ball? Because Spags wasn't letting them. I know that Gus Edwards had a nice 15-yard run. But guys, go look at the other plays when other guys like Gus Edwards and Justice Hill were getting the ball out of the back. They were getting popped. Lamar Jackson was getting pressured.
Especially that Justin Reed hit, bro.
Exactly.
Gus Edwards? Oh, man.
So as much as I want to sit here and talk about why couldn't the Ravens do it, it's because of what Spags put on the field. Yeah. Lamar could not get a rhythm. His
disguises are unreal.
Like Trevor was saying during the game, he goes, they don't look like they belong. They don't. The pressure was getting to them.
That Ravens team was not fit for this, man.
Yeah, like you could just tell that Spags the whole game dictated what the Ravens could and couldn't do on offense.
100%.
I mean, outside of one broken play, the Ravens would have had 3 points in this game.
We took their will away from them, man.
And Chenal, or was it Chenal or Tranquil, should have had Lamar in the backfield.
Yep, that should have been a sack.
Yeah, should have been a sack.
Yep, that was a great. That's why Nick Bolton was in coverage, because they were like, nah, we're going to get this sack.
Right.
They should have. They got there. They got there.
So outside of that one broken-ass play, guys, Spags did everything he wanted to do against the MVP and an offense that people were telling me we're going to put up 30-plus points on the Chiefs. So it's time to give this man his flowers. It's time to give Spags his flowers, guys. This man has been in the league for a long time. Yeah. He has won a ton, and he's going to continue to win a ton, I think, as long as he's here in Kansas City, which I am expecting to continue. I'm expecting him to be the DC here for at least a few more years.
Oh, yeah.
At least as long as Andy Reid's going to be here.
Pretty pleased.
And if that happens, guys, I'm telling you right now, I think it's not going to be a conversation anymore. But you look at the success, you look at the consistency, the domination. I think that Spags is the greatest DC that's ever come and that's ever been a part of this NFL. I don't know about you, Trevor. I don't know. You feel the same way, but the numbers don't lie to me.
I mean, yeah, of course. Like, and the fact that he's won it in two different ways, because when he won those Giants Super Bowls, the offenses were different in the league. You know, things were different. Very, very run centric, slower pace, a lot of slower pace games. And you know, in the modern football, you know, it's the wide receiver, the elite wide receiver ones that get targeted. And he's found out ways, especially this season with L'Jarius Sneed and McDuffie, to shut those number one targets down. Very Belichickian, because you know Belichick was always known for taking away your number one option, your number one go-to guy, your most elite weapon. And he was always very successful at it. No matter what you did, he still found ways to shut that number one weapon down for the most part. Except Kareem Hunt when he just absolutely went nuclear in his first game of his career.
Right.
That was fun. Yeah, I just think that what he's done and the way he's adjusted and having that time off before he came and he joined us when Andy Reid went and plucked him off the streets, there was a lot of discussions that I remember hearing about, like how he said he's been in the lab. He was telling Andy Reid he's been in the lab and he's kind of like drawn up a lot of new things and came up with a lot of, like I like to say, formulas. He's came up with a lot of new formulas, and it was kind of a rough start. You know what I mean? Like you said, there was a couple, was it 2021 when we started the season? It was rough. And we had too much talent on that team to be that bad. But he figured it out. You know what I mean? And he's a guy that is always adjusted and played to the strength of his players. But he does have a formula. He does have a style, and he does have a type. Yeah. Like he likes those longer cornerbacks and guys that have really good hip fluidity, like McDuffie, who can run with anybody. And then you have the dogs like L'Jarius Sneed, who can just out physical any receiver out there. And the way he's shut down wide receiver ones, man, has been unmatched this year. Especially when Jamar Chase had all the reasons in the world to light us up in the matchup this year. We found ways to bracket him. That was just annoying him, and we were getting in his head. And he was trying to fight guys. That's the stuff you want to see out of your coordinator. That's the guy. That's the kind of guy you want leading that defense. And you got guys making shirts for him and AFC Championships games on the road.
Shirts are sick.
There's just nothing. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know, when your defense is that bought in, they're making shirts, wearing them pregame because they love you that much, and they're bought into your formula that much. I'm right there with you. There's nobody better in the game right now.
Well, and the results,
or maybe ever.
Right now, from a historic standpoint. Put that other slide up there real quick, Trevor, from Scott Kasmar. on Twitter. He said most games allowing fewer than 28 points in NFL history, playoffs included. Look at that.
That's nuts.
Did you look
bro.
at it?
That's all Super Bowl champs.
All Super Bowl champs.
That's crazy.
Only one more game where the Chiefs had. The Chiefs had more than all those teams.
Sure, we had the one more game, but.
And if you had taken even further, the Chiefs haven't given up 30 points. They've given up 30 points one
outside
time.
of the Super Bowl.
And was it 36 games?
Almost
now,
2 whole seasons. Yeah.
Games. Oh, it is.
2 whole seasons outside
seasons.
this. Fucking crazy. Dude.
And the last time, and here's the other thing.
That's insane.
I told you guys that they've given up one game in the regular season of 30-plus points since week 4 of 2022. And that game, the only reason they gave up 31 points is because they were blowing out the Buccaneers. Remember on Monday Night Football?
We let up.
And Tom Brady scored a couple garbage time
Tyreek had
touchdowns.
over 200 receiving yards that game. Yeah.
No, that was 20.
Oh yeah.
2022.
I got you. Yeah.
Last season, remember they were doing the pose in the end zone, and Patrick had that little Clyde Edwards-Helaire dump off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the game. They smoked the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
smoked them. And that was when Tom. So that's really the last time.
That's crazy.
In
that's
a regular
crazy
season game, they've given up 30-plus points. So Spags, what he's doing at an historic level like this, and I'll have more numbers for you guys next week as far as why this defense has been so dominant, and they're putting themselves literally in the lore.
Yeah, if that stat doesn't make you confident going into this matchup in the Super Bowl, I don't know what else will. Man.
And I told you guys from the beginning, and I said this back in September after what the Chiefs did against the Jaguars and a couple other teams. I said this is the best defense in the AFC. People are like, no, it's the Browns, no, it's the Ravens. Guys, look what this defense is doing. The Ravens didn't do this. The Browns didn't do this. This is the best. I've been saying it consistently. This is the best defense in the AFC, and I'm going to have more stats for you guys next week as to why I'm going to put this matchup the way the preview and prediction that I have. And this defense has a lot to do with it. But I thought that stat was absolutely nuts, man, about Spags, and it's time that we really recognize just how historically great he's been. Final topic I want to get to before we get to speak it, Trevor, is something that I didn't really want to talk about, but it now is in my opinion, right in the center of everything, and I really wish it wasn't. So right before the game last week against the Ravens, we had gotten some word that Chiefs wide receiver 𝚂𝙿𝙾 Toney was rather upset about some stuff. I didn't want to play the video because even though we can be explicit on this show, I think that some of the stuff he was saying on this clip wasn't worth putting on this show. Quite frankly, because it's also hard to understand some of the things he was saying.
Yeah, you got to decode it a little bit.
Yeah, he was really going in, man. I couldn't understand some of the stuff he was saying.
Might have been some substances involved.
Basically what 𝚂𝙿𝙾 Toney was saying, because we had gotten word that he was having a child, so there's personal reasons he wasn't at the Ravens game.
Congrats, by the way.
Yes, obviously,
baby
man.
girl.
That's great. And hopefully everything's going well with the baby. He's healthy and everything's going well.
Yep.
We obviously made peace with that, but we also made peace with the fact that this team has just been simply better without 𝚂𝙶𝙾 Toney out there, because facts are the facts. We know what's gone on this season. And we saw on the injury report that he had a hip injury. We also have seen throughout time he's had knee and ankle issues. We've seen that all on the injury report.
Yeah.
Well, 𝚂𝙶𝙾 decided to go live on his story on Instagram and deny all of that, saying he's not hurt, the team's capping, all this stuff's going on. Basically, the team's lying on his name, and that he's not down for that. And he's saying all this stuff. He's denying all this stuff.
Something about fellatio.
Yeah, something in that vicinity. And he basically just denied it all. Yeah. And for me, I just felt like this was a distraction that we didn't need to address. Chiefs are about to play the biggest game of the year. They're rolling. Things are good. And so I didn't focus on it. But now I'm looking at it, guys, and I got to be honest with you. I don't want 𝚂𝙶𝙾 Toney around this team. I'm not saying he's a bad person, okay? But there's something about the way this team's playing over the last month and change, the way they were playing with 𝚂𝙶𝙾 Toney in the lineup, and how much different those things have gone, and just the vibe of this team with and without him is significantly different. Yeah. I believe his teamites love the guy.
I love the guy, bro.
Again, I'm sure he's a good dude. I'm not sitting here trying to demonize the person.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at this from a results perspective, and we know that this is all about winning the Super Bowl, I don't see the benefit in having him around at all, because he's got this type of attitude about things. He's basically calling the team a liar, saying that they're putting injuries on him that aren't real. What I wish the Chiefs would have just done, Trevor, is just say we're benching him based on performance, and just left it at that, because we know deep down that's the biggest reason why this is all going down.
Well, now it's just personal, and now he's cleared completely cleared off the injury report. Now it's just a personal thing, which obviously it's very personal.
Yes, we can theorize what it is that why they took that off. The point is, I think the Chiefs would have just saved themselves some trouble if they would have just said it's based on performance, because he's cost them multiple games this season and damn near tried to cost them the Patriots game, which was ridiculously much closer than it should have been thanks to 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙾𝙺.
Yeah.
So I want to, and this is the biggest reason why. Again, it's not just about the IG Live. It's not about any of that stuff. I'm looking at it just from a raw numbers perspective. So if you could throw that stat up there, Trevor, really quick, that ESPN dropped this morning about cutting out the mistakes. So the regular season, the Chiefs had 28 turnovers, a 6.2% in drop percentage, 3.5 penalties per game. That drop percentage was the worst in the NFL, one of the worst in NFL history. But if you look at the postseason, they've only had 2 turnovers. They've cut their drop percentage literally in half, and almost a full penalty less per game. Guys, what is the difference? I mean, I understand that we can sit here and say there's other things that are going on that have helped the Chiefs advance and play better, more efficient football, but you can't tell me it's a coincidence. The moment that 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙺 is not a consistent piece in the lineup, they're having fewer penalties, him lining up off sides, and them having far less drops, a guy that's leading the team in drops. You can't tell me that's a coincidence. With Tony in the lineup this season, the Chiefs are 8-5. Without him, they're 4-1 with games when they start their starters. I'm not counting the Chargers game at the end of the season. The offense averages the same amount of points per game with or without Tony, which is 22. But there's no denying that the offense has finally found a rhythm, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they found that rhythm the moment they stopped playing the unplayables, which was 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙺 and Sky Moore. Now, I will say this. MVS was 100% in that group to me.
Right.
I did not want him out there, but he
had more drops than any of them.
Totally redeemed himself
Yeah.
by doing what he's done in these last 2 postseason games against the Bills and Ravens. The fact is, though, Trevor, I'm just not willing to give Tony any more opportunities, especially in the biggest game of the season. The dude couldn't handle the offseason slander from Giants fans in his DMs. He couldn't handle being the premier receiving option in week 1, and he's blown game after game for the Chiefs. It would be one thing if he had one game, one redeemable game like MVS had in last year's postseason, the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
That is one reason why you can give MVS some defense. But he doesn't. There is no reason to trust 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙺, man. If I'm the Chiefs, I keep him off the field. I keep him as far away from causing any type of effect on this team at all, man, as possible, because I just don't see the positives in bringing him back. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this sucks, man. I'm a guy who's rooted for him, and really wanted to see him succeed and see what he could become in this offense. I like him. I like the idea. He's like an obscure kind of odd guy. I'm always kind of drawn to those kind of players. I like what he could be. Can he transition that crazy to the field and be like a legitimate weapon, an unpredictable kind of weapon? But he's been unpredictable in the worst kind of way, unfortunately. I think he's got 5 drops in the year. It's hard to look at those numbers, and it's hard to not watch. I think it's a collective, though. I don't think it's just 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙺. Obviously, Sky Moore's been out of the mix too. That's kind of, even though neither one of them got overtly targeted in this offense. 𝚂𝙺 𝙺𝙺 didn't even see the field that much this year. So I'm not gonna. But I mean, when he was on the field, he was costing us in situational football, dramatically, in big ways. So getting rid of that, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So. We can have the greatest performance in the Super Bowl, but if he costs us and has a pick 6 and that can sway a game, we know how momentum goes. I don't know, man. I'm with you. I don't think he should play. I don't think the Super Bowl is the game you throw him back into. That just seems like very risky, very just not what, as far as you're weighing out the pros and cons of what could come, what outcome he can, or what production he can give you. I think the cons outweigh the pros here, for the risk reasons. So I agree that he shouldn't play. I agree that he should be wrapped up and just taken care of the rest of the season and just watch from the sidelines. And then maybe next season we could figure out something for him, maybe a place if he wants to stick around here. I don't know. He lost me with that rant on IG though. I mean, that's just a classless move. Regardless if the Chiefs were, if there was some. Listen, this is the NFL, dude. Injury reports. If there's things going off the field, there will be things you got to read between the lines on. Obviously, everyone knew he's not that hurt to where he could not be on the field. And for reasons that he's exposing himself for why they're throwing personal in there as well, because the guy has personal issues right now. Just had a child, so there's a lot going on with that. And his mental capacity of dealing with the ins and outs of what a NFL career is. He's not being a team player, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's not of the stature or the status to be someone. He's not as crazy as Antonio Brown was. Antonio Brown is a Hall of Fame player. Right. You know what I mean? If this is Antonio Brown doing this, none of us are surprised. This is 𝚂𝙺𝙸 𝚂𝙾, a guy who's a nobody. Right. As much as I like him, what I think he could be talent-wise and as a pure football weapon, he's a no one. He's a nobody in the NFL. If he wasn't on the Chiefs, no one would really even know who he is, man. I mean, I do because I liked him in Florida, and it was fun to watch. But like even then, he's always kind of been a head case, and it's unfortunate. I hope the best for him. I want to see him succeed, especially on this team if we could in any way. But I'm not throwing him back out there in the Super Bowl, bro. That's just not happening. One big mistake can blow the whole momentum that this Chiefs team has, and the juju is so good. The locker room, the vibes are good. Everything's good right now, So, and I know the team loves him. I mean, Kelsey time and time again has come out his defense on the podcast and in post game pressers and pressers in general. A lot of guys have come to his defense. But yeah, I mean, that's just not a risk I'm willing to take, man. I'd rather have Sky Moore back out there.
I wish the Chiefs would clear some things up because to this point they still haven't put him on the IR.
They immediately had him back at practice after that rant. It's a weird thing.
I don't really understand, because they keep benching him, which I'm in complete support of. You're in complete support of, but they keep keeping him active.
He's basically a healthy scratch.
Yeah, so I don't really understand what they're trying to do with that situation. What I will say though is, because again, my biggest thing is obviously trust. That's a big thing with Andy Reid. He has to be able to trust you on and off the field, and I just don't see how there's any way that Andy Reid could say that he trusts 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀 as a person and as a player right now. But it goes even further than that. The Chiefs have simply not needed him. It's not like they're out there, man. If they just had 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀, I think that they would be like a complete team right now. They're winning playoff games on the road without him. He's not contributing at all, and they're rolling to the Super Bowl.
Well, I did see Dave Tope talking about him possibly returning punts.
And I think that
would be the only way.
I read that too.
He's been a very good punt returner. I'll give him that. He hasn't fucked that up yet. What I'll say though
is that I think that the biggest reason why we are on board with that is because we saw one awesome punt return he had.
Sure.
But again, just
in
the
a big moment.
The idea of him, because we do know a lot of times the punt is a pivotal part to a game. You kick the ball down to someone else's 11-yard line. That guy better catch that or fair catch it or make a good call. Do we trust that 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀 is going to do that? He'll hold on to the ball. Like, he's not been playing for a long time. Will he be rusty? You know what I mean? Like, will he put that ball on the ground? And in a game like this, that's not something you want to do. Why did we see the Niners get their absolutely their brakes beat off by the Ravens? Because the Ravens were forcing turnovers in short fields.
Yeah.
You don't want to give the
Can't
Niners
do that in the Super Bowl, man.
You don't want to give the Niners that. So
I mean, look, that was the difference in the Super Bowl against the Eagles.
Yes.
That was about even a Super Bowl as you can get last year.
And that's the point.
Costly turnover by Jalen Hurts is what cost him the game.
Yes, the Chiefs might be the more limited team on offense between them and the 49ers. But the Chiefs have the guys out there that I believe they can trust, that they know they're going to be where they need to be. They're going to make the plays when they need to make them. Again, the 49ers probably have much more stacked offense.
Sure.
But I think the Chiefs have an offense that they can win this game with, and it doesn't include 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀. So I would just rather them avoid all possibilities of making mistakes, because we know this is what this team's been dealing with all year, and the problem is they've not been able to overcome it. I don't understand why you would put yourself back in that situation where you could be potentially dealing with those problems and then eventually and inevitably playing against yourself along with the opposition in front of you.
But at the same time, we're saying this, and I agree with you. I think we're both in unison here in this topic. It just feels very Andy Reid, though, to have a 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀 play where you talk about MVS redeeming himself, and MVS has honestly been the worst one to watch of all these guys. MVS has cost us too, man, big time. And one of those wasn't his fault. There was a no call in that Green Bay game, which should have been called. The guy was riding his back. But numerous drops on his end, possible touchdowns left on the field because of drops by him. And he's redeemed himself. So, I mean, if anybody can redeem themselves, MVS redeemed himself. It just feels very Andy Reid-esque to see 𝚂𝙺𝙀𝚃 𝚂𝙀 out there in some kind of jet sweep. Big play that he burns. I mean, they want to match that because he's a Debo-esque kind of player as far as skill set. He's definitely not Debo. I'm not saying that in any way. They're on two different solar systems. But he has a similar skill set to Debo.
But the thing
I feel like they want to match that for some reason.
The thing I have to ask, though, because, again, he's been active all along, right? Yeah. He's not been put on the IR once.
Right.
If this was the Chiefs' plan to inevitably play him in the postseason, one, why didn't you play him in any of the previous postseason games?
Yeah.
And two, why didn't you play him in the Chargers game that was basically just to keep everybody fresh? You know, get some guys active, get some guys out there and spread their wings a little bit. Why didn't he play? That's the whole point. So Andy Reid, let's say he goes that route. That makes how he's handled this has made no sense.
What I think is going to happen, I think him and Sky Moore both are going to be active. I think they're both going to be active because I think about it this way: if I'm going to the Super Bowl, say Rashee Rice gets hurt, say Justin Watson gets hurt, one of these guys gets hurt, or two different wide receivers get hurt. Then we know these Niners can go out there and make some dirty plays. Say that happens, you gotta have depth. You know what I mean? And I think that's the only reason. I'm not expecting KT to be on the field, if I'm being honest with you. Because we still have McCole Hardman, and I'd much rather see McCole Hardman's ass out there. And even though he's had 2 fumbles already in this postseason, which makes me nervous as well, I'd much rather see him even returning punts at this point right now because I just trust him. He's been here and he's done it. But if, say, he gets hurt, say, other guys get banged up, you got to have depth, and it's very nerve-wracking the fact that those guys are our depth. But having bodies is important, and yeah, we've seen Pat make do with less. So I don't know. I think that's what's going on here. I'm not expecting Kadarius Toney to make some kind of big play or be an integral part of this offense in the Super Bowl matchup. But I think it's simply a depth move of keeping him active, and I think him and Sky Moore both will probably be active for this game for that reason alone.
We shall find out. We should also find out what you guys want to talk about because we made you guys wait long enough. It is time for Speak It, where we give you guys the platform, the opportunity to take over whatever questions, takes, comments, concerns you guys have. You get to drop it here in the comments. Trevor, what are the people talking about in Speak It?
All right, so off the top rope, we got our guy Rhino on YouTube. Let's see, get on the screen here. Please make it make sense how the disrespect of Mahomes and the Chiefs being underdogs in this game. I don't care if they are the 3 seed. They are the better team and defending champs.
Yeah, so Rhino, this is a great question. This is a question that I've been asking myself all week. I've also been asking myself all week, why does the NFL, why does Vegas, why do they keep giving the Chiefs bulletin board material? And look, the 49ers for the majority of this season have been one of the better teams in the league. Statistically, they're great on both sides of the ball. But I'm going to break this down next week as to why the Chiefs will have a lot of success, in my opinion, against that 49ers defense, and why I think this Chiefs defense is going to continue on the trajectory and on the path they've been on all season long in this game. I understand the Niners are a scary roster. Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches in the entire NFL, but I think that what happened is that we saw the Chiefs be vulnerable for the first time for a long stretch this season. And I think what we're seeing now is the NFL is starting to almost like bait people into taking the Chiefs. Where, hey, let's take them on the money line, take them to cover, because because obviously Vegas is into this to make money. Let's be real. They want you to take the underdog.
They made a lot of money these last 3 weeks on the Chiefs. a lot.
I do think that there's a little bit of a bait here because I think if we're being honest, everyone knows who the favorite should be in this game. It's like you said, dude, the Chiefs are the defending champions. They have the better head coach. They have a better quarterback. They have a better defense. That usually should make you the favorite, in my opinion, when you have all those factors at play. You also have the more Super Bowl experience, more Super Bowl success. How do we know that? Well, they kind of beat this 49ers team 4 years ago.
Yep.
And to be honest with you,
that was a better team.
49ers team back then, even though I think Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Jimmy G, that Niners team was better back then than it was this time around.
I agree.
I think that defense was...
Jimmy G's numbers weren't that much different than Brock Purdy.
That was probably the best defense in the league that year.
It was an all-time defense.
That was a great defense. This year...
And it dominated us for 3.5 quarters.
Yes, and we'll talk about, like I said, I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but what I will tell you guys, even though the 49ers have a top-tier defense statistically this year, I'm going to break down the differences between who they played and when they played and how they played against those teams.
Yeah, we got a lot of time to talk about
We'll have a lot to talk about. But Rhino... All I know is I feel that this, like I said, was a bait by the league, by the bettors, by the sharps, and you should be grateful for it because it's going to benefit your pocketbook if you bet on the Chiefs, and it's going to benefit the Chiefs' mentality because they love being doubted. Because as you can see in Patrick Mahomes' career, if I'm not mistaken, sure, he's 10-1 as an underdog, or 10-3, something like that.
9-3, I think.
Yeah, 9-3 as an underdog. In other words, it usually bodes well for the Chiefs when they're doubted. So be happy about it, Rhino.
Yeah, and then Rhino follows that up with basically the same question to start. And then Casey has dominated on their run to the Super Bowl, and San Fran has honestly gotten lucky to get here. Total disrespect.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because Rhino's 100% correct.
It's fact,
so
dude.
Funny.
Yeah, man.
How I pay very close. People are always like, Lance, why do you pay so close attention to the national guys? Because I like keeping receipts. It's an obsession of mine. And I remember a guy I love and respect, Colin Cowherd. I was watching his Blazing 5 in the first round, the wild card round. He was saying, I have the Chiefs squeaking this one out, but I think the Dolphins are going to cover the 4.5. And I heard that all week, and the line didn't move.
Yep.
Even with all the Dolphins defensive players out, the line didn't move. Even with the sub-zero temperatures, and we knew that Tua can't play well in the cold, the line didn't move. The Chiefs were still minus 4.5. And then the Chiefs go in there and just absolutely spank Dolphin ass. And then it's, well, I mean, but it was cold. You know, their defense was depleted. So, I mean, yeah, of course the Chiefs are going to whoop some ass. Then we go into the next week, and it's, hey, it's that Bills team. This if win
hostile environment.
If not now, win. You know, Josh Allen's hot. The Hotzel's so hot right now.
So hot.
They're so hot right now. The Buffalo Bills, oh, they're scary. They're scary. It's at home. You know, they've been waiting to get the Chiefs in Buffalo. It's time for Bills Mafia to shine.
It's their time.
Let's have Kyle Brandt and his, hair plugs out there talking about Taylor Swift on his little diatribes. Let's make this thing. Night. And then the Chiefs go in there and win. And it's, well, I mean, the Bills' defense was depleted. I mean, let's be honest. The Chiefs should have won this game. They had, the favorable advantages. They got the calls, and Tyler Bass is missing field goals. And then we get to the AFC Championship, and oh shit, this defense, dude, this Ravens defense, they're historic.
I mean, they even brought out Chiefs champ Terrell Suggs.
Yeah,
pre-game.
Chief, exactly.
Hype us up, man. That was awesome.
I appreciate that. Not talking all week long, not giving bulletin board material, but this Ravens team, they got the MVP, Lamar Jackson. They're due. It's time for Lamar to get to a Super Bowl. Yeah. I just don't think the Chiefs' offense can overcome him, Trev. I think this Ravens defense is too much.
Reportedly, Lamar was more dangerous than Patrick
Lamar. Yeah, he's the quarterback you'd want to take in this matchup.
He's dangerous.
What we hear, TBH.
Yeah.
And then the Chiefs go in there and beat them. The goalposts are going to constantly move, bro.
Yeah, I don't think if the Chiefs were in the NFC and they went through that who the Niners went through to get here, and you reverse the paths, and both teams still met up here, I still think the Niners are being favored. Just because I just feel like it's the world against the Chiefs right now. Yeah. It just feels that way. And it's disrespectful, but I honestly want this to continue.
Yeah.
Because we're getting all this does is get the best out of this team. It was the same thing with the Patriots. I mean, they tended to be more favored more than they weren't, but they went through a little stint like this where they're kind of getting towards the end, and they started getting doubted. Is this the last run for Brady? Even though he went on like another 2 Super Bowl run.
No.
You know what I mean? So that was towards the end of their run. This is we're just reaching the peak of this dynasty, and we're already getting doubted just because I think it's already people are exhausted by this run and by the dominance of the Chiefs, and the fact that we are the 3 seed. And people still can't believe that we're here as the 3 seed. We made it. We went on the road when everyone was doubting us. And the doubt just continues, man. And all that does is just fuel this team. Patrick's even said it. He's been on record saying that he likes being the villain. Something about being on the road and hearing the boos brings out Kelsey as well. Being booed sometimes feels better than being cheered.
Yeah.
It brings the best out of you. It tests. And some guys crumble in those situations. Luckily, we have 2 Hall of Famers at their positions. Well, 3 guys at Hall of Famers at their positions with Chris Jones thrown in there in the mix, whose numbers elevate in these situations. So we're a team that's tried, and we're a team that's tested. We're a team that's proven to succeed in these situations, and we're going against a team that hasn't, and they're somehow favored, and I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more there, Rhino. The disrespect is real, but honestly, the disrespect brings out the best of us, so let's keep it coming. It's going to make the victory that much more sweeter. It has this whole path to getting here, so yeah. The fan bases and the NFL and the people who consume this content want a rivalry. I've seen it all over Twitter and X. Just please, Ravens fans, Bills fans, all these fans are like uniting with Niners fans. Can you please no Niners or Ravens fan here or Dolphins fan here? You guys just please beat the cringy Chiefs. Can you guys now we're cringy. Because I guess winning is just cringy nowadays. It's hilarious, man, and I love it, bro. It gets me more juice than anything. I mean, it's just Pat being as great as he is, Kelsey being as great as he is, and people want us to lose so bad. This is what we asked for. This is what we wanted in this city, and we have it, and we're sitting on top. And man, it is very, very much enjoyable for me. Next question from our guy Brian Parrott. I don't understand the Tooney thing. 3 weeks for a strain, and he's not okay. I think it might have been a partial tear. I don't know. Tooney, how do we feel about Toney, bro? Do we think Toney tries to? I mean, obviously he's going to try to play, but do you think this extra week in between the Super Bowl maybe gives him a chance to go out there? Or I mean, obviously we trust Allegretti.
Yeah. I think if the Chiefs didn't have Nick Allegretti, I think Joe Toney does play in this game. The problem though is
Allegretti balled last week.
Nick Allegretti's a reliable asset, and Joe Toney, yes, you guys. According to what I've seen from actual doctors on Twitter when they've been breaking down this injury, that's a partial tear. A strain on a muscle is a partial tear. So we have to understand that this is a tear no matter how you look at it. It's just the severity of it, how much mobility he has in that chest muscle. Because you got to understand, when you're talking about a guard, when you're talking about an offensive lineman, that those chest muscles are just as imperative as his hands. So if he doesn't have that leverage, he can't use that torque with his muscles in his chest, he's going to be useless out there, and it can further the injury as well. It can make it even worse. So if I will give Joe Toney all the credit in the world because I know how tough that dude is and how resilient he is. If he can give it a go, the Chiefs are going to trust him, and they're going to let him go out there and play. I'm not ruling out Joe Toney yet. He hasn't practiced in a couple of weeks. I think that rest is probably the best thing for him and just getting him right as best they possibly can. But if he's not able to go, I'm not worried. And I know that sounds nuts because Joe Toney's been the best blocking player in the entire NFL, literally by win rate, 99.1%, which is over 99% of the time, if you didn't hear that correctly, which means that over 9 out of 10 times he hits a block, he wins that block. So he's been the best in the league, but you just saw, guys, what Nick Allegretti's done. In the time that he had to play in the Bills game, in the Ravens game last week, they were running up the gut behind Nick Allegretti. Isaiah Pacheco's touchdown last week against the Ravens was behind Nick Allegretti.
Yeah.
So I fully expect, even though the Niners have a very respectable front seven, Nick Allegretti will do the job.
And we just went against a better defensive line.
In a hostile environment.
A much better defensive line. We're talking about like pressures and forced turnovers.
Yeah.
And the Ravens were the poster child for that this year. It wasn't
Absolutely.
even close. I mean, against this Niners team that we're about to face.
And again, that's me speculating on the fact that Joe Toney won't be available.
Right.
For all I know, guys, he's gonna play in this game, and if he does, the Chiefs are in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, we got Allegretti out there.
But if he
Allegretti,
doesn't,
baby. Gritty, baby. Let's go.
He'll regardless, the Chiefs are gonna be fine at guard.
Yeah, there's a reason we held on to Allegretti, man. He's an absolute beast. That guy knows what he knows what his job is, and he executes. And he's also got great instincts, and he obviously he's played with Toney this whole time. He's learned so much from him. I mean, if there's going to be anybody you learn from about, being technically sound,
and that needs to
that guy.
The credit also needs to be given a lot to Andy Heck too, the Chiefs offensive line coach. We know that Andy Reid trusts Andy Heck with everything.
Yeah.
Like I don't know who was saying it. It was a former player. They're like, dude, Andy Heck. I think it was Chris Long.
Oh yeah.
He was
Green
talking
Light
about
podcast.
The podcast. Yeah,
that's a great podcast, by the way. You guys should all listen.
He was saying that Andy Reid. He goes, like, hey, that dude. They'll have their game plans and stuff, and then Andy Heck will run a lot of practices.
Yeah.
Like Andy Heck will be teaching. So we got to give the coaching a credit as well, that Allegretti is this prepared. Because although Nick Allegretti has a great work ethic, he's physically able and all that stuff, having the right coaches to get into your psyche and get you prepared like that.
Getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, man, because Toney's been healthy all season.
Because we
hasn't really worried.
And how many times have we seen guys come and fill in? Especially in the offensive line, false starts, not being on the same page as the rest of the line because you got to be in unison, and that's a tough thing to just be thrown into. And even Wanya Morris coming in, and when he did earlier this year, filling in stuff and looked flawless for the most part. I mean, he got beat a few times, but it wasn't a highly penalized guy, a rookie. You know what I mean? So having these guys all prepared and all in unison definitely goes to Coach Andy Heck for sure. Next question is from Marilee Trahan. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I'm going to try my best. Any information about Kittle's toe injury?
Yeah, so this is something I'm going to be paying attention to. I fully anticipate that George Kittle will be available for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's playing.
Yeah, he's definitely playing. But this has been something that's been bothering him.
Yeah.
So much so that he's missed a number of practices because of it. Now, I do believe that's the Niners giving him that veteran rest. Just letting him stay off that toe for a little bit. Just get in the hyperbaric chamber, get some ice, get all that stuff, get prepared. But this is something I'm going to pay attention to because I want to see what George looks like at the beginning of the game. Are they going to be trying? Because I do believe, and I'm going to give you guys a little tidbit. I do believe the Niners are going to have to try to work their offense through George Kittle because that's the one area that I think they could get some stuff going.
Well, yeah, if he gets going, that's going to be that's tough.
So if he's healthy and he's playing well, I think that can be something the Chiefs are going to have to pay attention to. But if he looks slow out the gate, or if it looks like it's bothering him, that's something the Chiefs could definitely capitalize on, guys. So that's a great question. I'm glad that was brought up. But yeah, I do anticipate that George Kittle will play. Dude's one of the best tight ends I've ever seen in my life. And I think he's going to go out there and try to get that redemption, because he did say that, now all mic'd up, when the Chiefs beat him in 2019. He said, I will be back here.
Love it.
And I will be victorious. So this dude's going to come in here with a head full of steam, a heavy heart, and he's going to try to go out here and beat these Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, arguably the best personality in football, too. The guy's personality is incredible, dude. I would love to play with a guy like that. That's just a guy that's just waiting to have a post-football career. I mean, WWE or whatever it is. The guy just carries his charisma is just wild. Love that guy. But, yeah. We have to go out there and beat his ass. Next one is from Ron Adams. We touched this on a little bit, but we'll give him your shine here, Mr. Ron. What is really up with Tony and Moore?
Well, how about you give a little bit of your perspective here? People know where I stand on these guys. I think they're unplayable.
Listen, yeah, I think they're unplayable too at this point. Even though, ironically enough, both of those guys scored touchdowns in the last Super Bowl. So here we are in a Super Bowl again the following year, talking about these two guys that scored last year in the Super Bowl are unplayable. It's just kind of a funny full circle how we got here. But that just shows you, the evolution of this team and what we've overcome, and the elevation or evolution, if you will, of Rashee Rice and what he's become this year. How he's become such an asset for this offense, especially after the catch, and then just the continued dominance of Travis Kelce, man. So the fact that these two guys scored in the Super Bowl last year, and now here we are talking about what we hope that they stay on the sidelines this Super Bowl. It's crazy, but it's true, and I think that's what needs to happen. But what is up with them? I mean, they've been bad. Point blank simple. They've been bad this year. They've cost this team games. More Kadarius Toney than Sky Moore. Sky Moore's just been basically non-existent, if we're being honest. Not that he's bad. It's just he hasn't gotten a lot of attention.
He runs the wrong route.
The communication just has been not been there with Pat. And I don't expect him just to all of a sudden get it together in this Super Bowl matchup. And Kadarius Toney has just honestly just been a head case, man. Unfortunately, I've been on this show numerous times caping for the guy. I want to see him succeed because I like his skill set, but there's extracurricular things going on with him that is more than just football. But when it comes to football, the guy has cost us games, and we should not be the third seed. We should have had home field advantage in this postseason. And things should have been a little bit different the way that our season went. And he's a massive key cog to the struggles that we had this year. And that's not a guy I want to throw into the Super Bowl when he's been down numerous weeks in a row. Hasn't played football in over a month. I'm not cool with that. That's not ideal for me. And a guy that's already had issues is going to come in cold, and we're going to expect him to succeed. And I just know. This, for me, feels just like I think they'll both most likely be healthy. They'll both most likely be active. And it gives that defense just, something, a little extra something to think about. Because we do know Kadarius Toney can be a weapon, especially in the special teams. We've seen that. Yeah. You just go watch the tape of last year's Super Bowl, hit the longest recorded punt return in Super Bowl history. So he's got that on the plate for him to possibly be something to add to the opposition to think about on tape. But other than that, I think these guys are just strictly depth pieces. Being active for them during the Super Bowl is just, I think it's just a nod from Andy Reid being just a pure players coach. Loving his guys, no matter the shit talk that's been taking place on IG Live. Andy Reid's still backing his guys. That just shows you the character that Andy Reid has and the love that he has for his players. So for me, this just feels simply what is up with them anyways. This just feels like they're going to be active for the game, and they're just a break glass in case of emergency kind of players. That's where I'm at with those two. Next question is from 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺𝙴. Y'all going to the parade when we win this thing?
Dude, are you kidding me? I've been to the previous two.
I didn't go to the last two.
The next five.
I've had to work. I have had to work. So
I know for scheduling purposes, everybody can't get to it. I make sure that I do because it's not something I want to miss. And personally, I have a lot more of a lenient schedule than Trevor does. Trevor has a little bit more of a tighter ship. He has to run with a couple kids on his.
Well, and I work for a massive corporation that very rarely ever has days off, and
I'm a male dancer, so I don't really have to worry about it. They just kind of let me come into work. I'm Tuesdays at 3. That's my schedule. So
happy hour, baby.
But, I just try not to miss them because I just know those are historic things. I will say though, it's funny how different they were though the previous two, because first one everyone's just so like, oh my god, this is real.
This one,
the second one, I saw fights the whole damn time, so it was just kind of obviously there was like a lot of people enjoying it and stuff, but it was just, it was an even bigger crowd, and it just felt like people were just almost getting used to it. It was weird to say that, but I think if the Chiefs win this one, it'll be interesting to see what the third crowd's like, because I stood in the same exact spot both times, and it was just funny how different the vibe was from that time to the next. But I met some good people. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fun again having Nick Wright and the First Things First crew there again. Brew and Wilds will be there. It'll be fun to see all that. The local celebs, Paul Rudd and Dwayne Bowe, Tech 9, all those guys will be back.
Rob Riggle,
yeah, it'll be fun to see all that as well. So let's just go ahead and get this victory, and then we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, you guys will definitely be able to catch me out there. And I'm hopeful that our family out there in South Philly, Big Charlie's, will be out there as well, like they were last time. I got to meet Laura and
Shout out Big Charlie's,
Mikey. Got to meet a few of the other people from Big Charlie's, and had a great time. Took them to Gates Barbecue, had a great time with them after that. I was tired as hell after that. That day will drain you because you're standing the whole time, and it lasts a long time. It takes forever to get the hell out of there, and then you get food in you, man. I was in a coma when I got home, so be prepared. It'll probably be cold. And hopefully this time around there won't be a new virus that comes out from this Super Bowl, because it feels like ever since 2020 things have not been the same in this world. And
well, especially with the
Niners introduced it.
Right. So yeah, hopefully history is not repeating itself here. But for me, I'm gonna try my best to go. If we do win this one, we got to win it first. But if we do, I appreciate the confidence here in that comment. When we win this thing, I love it. I feel very confident. I'm right there with you. But yeah, if we do get this taken care of and finish this job, I'm going to try my best to be out there for this one, man, because I didn't get to go to the last two. I had to work, duty calls, but I'm going to try my best to get out there, man. I got to experience one of these, and, you never know when you'll be back here, even though I feel very confident we'll have a few more of these in the future. So, yeah. Next one is from Ruben, to kind of touch back on this topic again. Ruben DeCruz says, or asks, is KT gone?
Look,
I don't know if he means after the season, or he obviously he's not gone right now.
Are you? I mean, I would like to know. The question is, do I want him gone, or do I believe the Chiefs will actually get him gone? Because I think those could be two very different answers. Yeah. I will say that if it was my vote, I think we've seen what we need to see out of 𝚂𝙺 Toney. The Chiefs got 2 seasons out of him technically. I know that they traded a 3rd and a 6th, so you want to see that through. The Chiefs aren't going to be paying him, obviously. And next year, if I'm not mistaken, will be his. That'll be he's contract eligible now because he was drafted in 2021. So I think the Chiefs are going to convince themselves to give him one more season. But if I was the Chiefs, I'd cut ties now because, like I said, I think that we know what he is. Is he talented? Yes. Yeah. But there's a lot of talented guys out there at that position in particular. And if the Chiefs are going to do what I anticipate them to do, which is to overcorrect and go and get guys that are going to be actual difference makers, both from a veteran and rookie standpoint, I don't really know where 𝚂𝙺 Toney stands. And I think the longer he's ineffective, the more I think it becomes, and I don't want to call him this yet, but I think the chances of him becoming a distraction or a locker room cancer, actually it starts to become a much bigger thing because it starts on IG Live. Yeah. And then it becomes an outburst in the locker room, and then a fight breaks out or something happens. And we've seen this before. And what the Chiefs always do when guys like that start doing stuff like that, they get them out of Dodge. Yeah. So my vote, get him out, because like I said, is a cutthroat business, and the Chiefs are in the championship business. I don't think he helps them win championships. I think he was just a guy that they saw that had a lot of talent, who was on a rookie deal, that was on a team that he didn't fit. I think the same story's been rang true here, and I think it's time to cut ties. But I do think if I was a betting man right now, we'll see how this offseason goes. I think the Chiefs are going to say, hey, look, man, we got 2 more years of control on this guy on his rookie deal. Maybe we just see if 1 more year we can actually make this work. Yeah. I think that's what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, that seems like the most likely. I'm optimistic about it. I hope we figure it out with him, because I still believe in the skill set that he has. And I'm hoping he can become a weapon for this offense. And next season they find a way to keep him around and figure out what it is that he needs to find success. Because Andy Reid has been that guy that will work with guys, right? He'll figure out ways to find their strengths and do that. But if he's a guy that's going to continue to go on IG Live and roast the team, you get one pass, I think. Some guys don't even get that. You know what I mean? Dishonesty and integrity are 2 things that matter a lot here. If you're not telling the truth, like Kareem Hunt, for an example, and integrity. Even the Tyreek situation, we all stood by his side. Andy Reid stood by his side, waited for the chips to fall, and we figured it out. And Tyreek has had a Hall of Fame career after that point, and even up to that point. So I think they've tried to figure out a way to keep him here. But I think ideally, like you said, if I'm a betting man, I'm putting money on him either being gone next year or them giving him one more little shot here to do something this next season. But yeah, he's not gone yet. But yet is the word. Facebook user, I'm not sure who exactly this is, but I'm going to give you your time here. I love the whole, I'm sorry, Uncle Bo. This is Uncle Bo. This is our uncle. I love the whole Lance Rants bit. Wonder who gave a nephew that vision, that inspiration, that encouragement. Kill it, nephew. That's just a shout out from our uncle there.
Appreciate that, Uncle Bo.
Love you, Uncle Bo, man.
Thanks for watching, dude, too.
Yeah,
man.
appreciate it. Thank you for
I thought it was a clever little name, little Lance Rants.
Yeah.
We had that around for a while, and I'm glad that you find it cool because I haven't heard enough people say that. And I always thought it was cool, so kind of fits the whole show, and it rhymes. And I thought it was kind of nifty. Yeah, and our uncle, one of the most clever, witty guys we've ever met. Yeah, definitely growing up around him, definitely helped inspire that mental fuel, if you will, to burn on. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Haters gonna hate, but I think it rocks. Henrique.
Let's rock.
Yes, rock. Henrique, is this the best Chiefs team ever?
No. And I'll say
there's a caveat there.
I will say this. Yeah. I think it's the best Chiefs defense ever. And 1995 is the one that I would compare this to.
Yeah.
And we broke this down a while ago. Remember when I said that 1995 defense wasn't facing the talent that this team does now.
Yeah.
The passing offensive protection that quarterbacks get today.
Yeah.
And to still be compared almost neck and neck.
Well, and the mobility of Lamar Jackson, there weren't guys running around like that.
Guys like that. Maybe like Steve Young,
catch his own goddamn passes.
Right. Michael Vick wasn't around yet. Like I think this is the best defense ever, and obviously the Chiefs have the best head coach and quarterback ever. But I think that there are flaws in this offense that does keep that, because let me put it like this. If I had to choose, Trevor, for the next 10 years for the team to be built more like the 2020 Chiefs or the 2023 Chiefs, I'm picking 2020. Yeah. Because that 2020 offense was deadly beyond belief. They just had an offensive line that broke down as the season went on. That team should have won the Super Bowl. That was actually, in my opinion, that was the best Chiefs team ever accumulated, because they had a decent defense. I think they were like 11th overall, and they had the number 1 offense. Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me a top 15 defense and a top 2 offense. That team's going to win Super Bowls left and right. This team can do it right now as is, but for me, I just don't want to be the team that relies on an elite defense and then just hopefully you get enough out of the offense where you're hoping Patrick Mahomes can be great all the time. Remember when we talked about this before the season? This is my biggest concern going into the season was I don't want to have to make Patrick be great all the time.
Right. There's got to be a balance.
Yes, and the defense has been great this season. Give them all the respect, but as a whole team, I don't think this is the best team I've ever seen. I don't even think this is the best team in the Mahomes era. I think the 2020 Chiefs were the best team. They just got, like I said, robbed at the end of the season with all those injuries to the offensive line.
The way I'm interpreting this question is when I see, is this the best Chiefs team ever? There's some nuance there for me as far as based on what.
Yeah.
That's why I said there's a caveat there, because if the Chiefs win this Super Bowl, I think this is the best story.
I would agree with that.
So far, in any Chiefs team ever.
That would mean, though, that they're
even more than last year when winning one right after we let a Hall of Fame receiver go.
Yes.
But we also lost more. This year, we were the 3rd seed. We were playing a lot of horrible football. We had a terrible loss to the Raiders that should have never happened. We got our asses kicked by the Packers and a second-year quarterback or Jordan Love, who is a maybe. You know what I mean? A lot of bad losses this year and the things we've overcome, and then going on the road when everyone's doubting us being dogs back-to-back or 3 weeks in a row. If we win the Super Bowl being dogs 3 weeks in a row, this is going to be the greatest.
And that's why they're not the best team ever. Because
not talent-wise.
The best team never gets underdogs after underdogs after underdogs. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, not talent-wise. Yeah. But the fact that the obstacles that I think this team will overcome if we do win this will be the greatest story.
I agree.
As far as the most glorified team. Like, how did they do it?
How
did they do that?
What they did just last season was
especially
the best
in the media, how they're going to see it.
Yeah, because what they did last season, when everyone talked about, like you said, they were throwing graveyard dirt on the Chiefs when they traded Tyreek Hill.
Right.
And they said this
Travis Kelce was done.
Yeah,
all
they're
these
not
things.
Making the playoffs, and they win the Super Bowl. That was the best story to date.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, because now we've seen them do it. The Chiefs have never not seen the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill in the Mahomes era.
Right.
Like, think about that.
Yeah.
And like you said, this wide receiver room in particular got worse. Travis Kelce didn't have as good of a season that he had the year before.
Right.
And they're still in the Super Bowl. I'm with you 100%. I think this will be the greatest story.
Yeah, and especially for Mahomes' legacy.
Yes.
Because all the narratives, like I said, like the ups and downs, we could barely string consecutive wins together all season to save our lives. Yeah. Maybe 2 in a row and then we lose. Maybe 2 in a row, then we lose, and then we lose 2 in a row here. It's like And then all the narrative of Kelce and Andy Reid retiring, all these things. Is Kelce done? Is he washed? And here's Kelce having a resurgence in the postseason once again, back to his dominance. Patrick Mahomes back to his dominance. Andy Reid back in his bag. Spagnuolo in his bag more than ever. All these things completely just flipping the script on everybody in the postseason. And if we go and win this Super Bowl, bro, this is gonna be the best story yet in Patrick Mahomes' legacy. And this might be the most, in retrospect, when his career is done, Patrick Mahomes, this might be the season, because he's in the prime years of his career, just reaching his peak, and everyone was still doubting us. We were dogs all the way through the postseason, outside of the first week of the postseason against the Dolphins. It's going to be the best story. It's not going to be the most dominant team, most special team. I think 2019 was that team for me. I know we were down in the Super Bowl, but as far as talent and what Tyreek Hill meant to this team, and the statistics and Patrick's numbers were insane that year. That team was probably the most talented offensively. But overall, man, I think this story will go down as the best moment for Chiefs fans, and I think in Patrick Mahomes' legacy and the dynastic run. Yeah. This one, man, so much doubt, more doubt than ever, and everyone hating us and us going on the road being the villains. Mm-hmm. This has been the most entertaining one for sure.
And it should excite you guys as well when it comes to these conversations, because, like Trevor said, that Patrick is just now entering the prime.
Just getting
these
in
next
his peak.
5 years are going to be his best seasons.
Yeah.
And what I will say to that is, this should excite you guys based on what we know from the cap structure, contracts that the team currently has. If everything goes as planned, guys, I don't think we've seen the best Chiefs team yet. I don't think it's going to be one of those, remember all those years ago how great that team was? Man, I wish we had that still. No, I really believe these next 2 to 3 teams that are coming up, 2024, 2025, 2026, I think those are going to be the best, because you're still going to have Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, like I said, is entering his best.
She Rice another year in the system.
Yes, Brett Veach is going to go out there and spend and probably go get a big-time name at wide receiver again. And we know what this offense is when you have a big-time name at wide receiver. The offensive line is going to continue to be great. I think it's actually going to get better. I think they're going to be this drop off for the defense.
Might draft Travis Kelce's predecessor.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating the Chiefs are going to keep a top 2 defense next season. Probably not. But I don't think they're going to drop to like 24th. I think it's going to stay within the top 15.
Yeah.
And again, if you
I think Spags has figured something out.
You saw just last season.
Yeah.
Chiefs had the 16th ranked defense in the league. Yes, they got a lot of sacks. They were dead average and won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So that's really all you're going to need to see. And like I said, I think this team's at its best when the offense is at its best and the defense just does its job. Yeah. Having an elite defense is great. Like, ideally, having this defense with a top-tier offense is what you want.
Yeah.
And it can happen, not for long periods of time, but we saw the Patriots have a top 5 offense, top 5 defense. They've done it. It's all about drafting and developing guys and going to get the right veteran free agents. And I think Brett Veach is going to continue to do that.
I agree. This is not the best team statistically, by far not statistically offensively, but this if we win and we finish this job, this is the best story. And like I said, because of legacy, and because if we do win this Super Bowl, this is the best start to any one quarterback's career, right? And he would have one more Super Bowl on this pace than Tom Brady did at this point of his career. And this just for me would be the most special season so far in Patrick Mahomes' career, man. So now we're good on volume. I'm not sure, man. I think Brian Parrott is having issues not being able to hear us. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm not sure what's going on, man. But I asked earlier in the chat if everybody can hear us, and everyone said they could. So I'm not sure what's going on your end, man, or if, I don't know. Maybe the football gods just don't want you to hear the sweet, sweet sounds of our voice today.
We're going to have Brian be a part of this, man. I'm sorry about that, dude.
Yeah, bro. Not sure what's going on there. Next question is from our guy Omar on YouTube. How much are you willing to pay Chris Jones?
All right, so I've already kind of given you guys my parameters on it, so I don't want to go too far in depth again. I want Trevor to answer this one if that's all right, Trevor. But what I will say is if I was Brett Veach, depending on obviously where the cap structure is going to be, which I am anticipating the Chiefs are going to have well over $20 million to mess with initially, and I think that's only going to go up. I would say that I would offer Chris Jones a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Worth about $65 million, where it pays him over $32 a year in totality.
Incentivize the shit out of it.
Incentivize the hell out of it, but I give him a lot of guaranteed money up front. Like I said, that first year, guarantee a lot of money. And that way, you give Chris Jones the opportunity to go and get another contract if he keeps playing well after that second season. If Chris Jones is helping on, I want a long-term deal here in Kansas City, I want to stay here long-term, then you're going to have to say, okay, well, then we're going to drop the number down, guaranteed dollars down, by a substantial margin, and we'll give you that third year, but it's going to drop from anywhere from $32 million. I want to drop it down to about $24 to $25 million. And I think that's a realistic number. I do believe that. And again, I know that's a heavy investment, but I think that the Chiefs I think it's something they have to do because they tried to do it last year, didn't work out. We know how important he is to this defense moving forward, in my opinion. I think and I think that when Chris Jones, if he does go and test the market out, if the Chiefs like, hey, go and see what you can find, I don't think he's going to find a ton of teams, especially teams that are good. They're going to be offering him a ton of money. So I say 2 for 65 or 3 for 75, something like that. 2 for 65 or 3 for 75.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, and I'll say this too. Chris Jones has made it clear that money matters to him, and I think that's most people, especially if you got a family. He's got multiple kids. He's got a family to take care of, and he has their futures to think about. So money should definitely matter, especially when you're sacrificing your body like he does on a daily basis. These guys go through a lot, and these are typically short-lived, and he's blessed to even be in this position still and be upright and be healthy at that position. So that's one. But I say money matters to him, but I also think Chris Jones is one of those guys that legacy really matters to him. Early on in the early years, I remember when we won our first Super Bowl, Chris Jones was saying they're going to make a movie about this. This is special to him. This is different. If he wins his 3rd ring in Kansas City, and he knows they can even possibly go back to back, because we're only going to get better this next offseason because we weren't supposed to win this year. Right. If we take care of business, when he gets his 3rd ring as a Chief, winning changes a lot of things for people. Not saying he's going to take some kind of discount because he shouldn't. But I think some discussions, some handshakes will be had if he wins his 3rd ring here, and we figure some things out, and he'll still get paid, obviously, his money, but I think a 2-year with a 3-year option or something like that, and with incentives in the second half of that contract for him to make even more money to keep him motivated. And we all know when Chris has incentives, he does everything he can to reach those incentives. But I think winning is a big deal for him. I think legacy is a big deal for him, and I think he loves this city. He's been entrenched in this city. I think him being in the Derek Thomases, as far as like the lure of Chiefs football, he's right up there with all those guys as far as what he's done, and he's honestly had way more success than any of them. Yep. So I mean, if anybody's entrenched in the lure of Kansas City, it's Chris Jones on the defensive end. He might be at the very top of the list by the time he's done here. So that's saying a lot, and I think that means a lot to him. And I think he, especially with a lot of the backlash that he might have felt from the fans this year with the holdout and all that by a certain sect of Chiefs fans. I think he kind of maybe we'll see how he feels after he wins this 3rd ring. But I think that can change some things for him personally. I think, after that, you have success like that consistently. Do you want to leave that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Knowing that you still have a lot left in the tank, and knowing that Pat's just getting started, knowing that Kelce obviously is still continuing his dominance. You still have Coach Reed. Do you want to leave that? You know what I mean? For a few more million a year. That's a decision he's gonna have to make. But like you said, our team's gonna line up to pay him that. We don't really know. At the age 30, that might give some teams some pause. Unless it's a team like the Bears, like we've discussed before, that has an excessive amount of money to throw his way if he really wants to do that. But does he want to go do that, or does he want to continue the dominance and the legacy that he has built here?
Well, and let me say this to the other side of it, because I want to draw this out, because we'll have all
sure
to talk about this. I will just say this: if I'll put this out here now, if Chris Jones says, "Look, guys, I've won 3 Super Bowl rings here.
Yeah,
I'm a 4-time All-Pro or 5-time All-Pro. I'm on my way to the Hall of Fame. I think I've sealed my legacy. Now I want to go and get that last massive paycheck. And if there is a team like the Panthers or Commanders, they're going to have a ton of money. The Patriots, teams like that, they're going to have a ton of money that will not be winning next season, but are willing to pay a guy like him to help bolster their defense and their come up.
Yeah.
Then okay, go get it. If there's a team out there that's going to say, no, we'll give you the 3-year, $95 million deal. If there's a team that's going to do that, then go get it, Chris. Yeah. I want him to go make his money. I would be sad as hell because I know how much he means to this defense, but if that is his number one objective, then go get it. And if it's out there, go get it. Yeah. If it's not, then, dude, work with the Chiefs. Work with Brett Veach, man. You guys have this built-in relationship. You've been with the Chiefs now for almost a decade. Like, this should be like, I know it's business. I don't want to make this I don't want to make this Disney here, but it is like a family too.
Yeah.
And I hope that him and the Chiefs can figure something out to meet each other halfway. Take 24, take 25 million for a 2-3-year deal. Get your paycheck still.
Or tag him and see if anybody's wanting to match that and offer him something, and then maybe match whatever that offer is.
The problem is
let him fill out the market.
The Chiefs would take a massive risk though, because if they tag him and no one does it,
it's a lot
the
of money.
Chiefs are on for $33 million next year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a 2-year with a 30-year option is the best deal for him moving forward. He'll be 33-ish by the time if we pick that up in the 3rd year or whatever. You know, a hefty 2-year deal sounds good. You know, spread that money out a little bit, but incentivize that 2-year contract. That sounds about right to me. So I'm right there with you, man. Next one is from Ruben DeCruz. This is kind of falls right in line with what we're talking about, so we can kind of skim through this one here. Do you think Veach is going to have difficult decisions to make this offseason?
Yeah, he's going to have a ton of different, and that's going to happen every offseason. There will be some that are easier than others. Like, I think that looking in hindsight, I think it was a lot easier for Brett Veach to move off of Tyrann Mathieu and Orlando Brown Jr. than it would be for Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
So there are going to be some decisions that are tougher than others. I will say, though, these next 2 years are going to be really tough on Brett Veach, because not only is he going to have to decide on guys that he wants to keep and let walk, but he's going to have to find guys that are going to come in and make impact. So I don't envy Brett. I mean, I criticize him, but trust me when I say I know I would never be able to do his job better.
It's a tough job, man.
It's a very tough job, especially for a team that every single year, you're only going to get so many years in that Mahomes window. You're going to have to make sure that you're capitalizing every year. And so far, he's done a damn good job being able to develop a great defense, being able to go and get guys here and there.
And having to make decisions you don't want to.
Right, especially when you're at the back end of every draft, knowing that you're going to be 29th to 32nd.
No, you're going to be the bad guy. You're going to eat shit.
There's a lot of pressure on Veach that I don't envy. And now losing Brent Tillis, his calculator.
To the Panthers?
His human calculator. Bears or Panthers, I forget.
I forget where he went,
losing his human calculator to help with the cap structure, that's another challenge that he's going to have to take on.
Yeah.
But he, like I said, outside of this wide receiver room that he did a very bad job at this year, Brett Veach has done nothing but an outstanding job, in my opinion, of these at least last 5 years.
Defense.
And I think he's going to continue that too, man. So it's going to be a difficult offseason for sure. But I do believe that the Chiefs, if I know that the priority to them is to continue to build this defense to just keep it adequate enough to win Super Bowls, that starts with Chris Jones for at least the next 2 to 3 seasons. In my opinion, I think you got to keep him for the next 2 to 3 seasons.
He's a pillar.
He's still so great, man.
Yep.
And the Rams do that, and you saw why the Rams did what they did. They don't regret that.
No.
And they haven't had nearly the success of the last 2 years.
Got some jewelry out of it.
Yeah.
Next one, follow up from Ruben to Ruben. Ruben DeCruz, guys, will we get run stoppers for next season?
So, yes, I think that the Chiefs are going to – that's a priority as well. The weird thing, though, about this Chiefs defense is that that's never been their ultimate strength. And it's because I don't believe in most defenses today, stopping the run has been the number one objective. It's more about stopping the pass.
Yep.
Getting to the quarterback, disrupting the passing lanes,
and
things of that
successful.
nature. Like, if you look at the Chiefs this year, they've been actually one of the worst defenses against the run from a DVOA standpoint.
They're like 18th or
like
something.
all the advanced metrics, they've been pretty bad. But when it comes to how much – we talked about this, remember, a few weeks ago, and I said, I know it sucks to see the Chiefs get gashed in the run game. But how many times can you honestly look at it and say, that's why the Chiefs lost that game?
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single game, and forever now, that the Chiefs lost because they could not stop the run.
That's what made that Packers loss so infuriating.
Yeah.
Not only they weren't even running all over us, and Aaron Jones is obviously a beast, but they were destroying us through the pass.
Right.
We were like, wait,
that's when
we've been getting shredded on the ground all season and not letting teams score.
Yes.
But now we're allowing all the scoring and we're getting shredded in the secondary. Right. It's like, God damn it, that was the worst.
If you look at the majority of the guys that Brett Veach has drafted, it's not been run stuffers. It's been guys that are really good at getting to the quarterback.
Versatile,
big,
athletic.
Physical, yes. Spags can utilize them in multiple ways because in Spags' defense is more about pressure on the quarterback. So yes, you want to take it serious to a degree where you go and get a big dude. You know, we've seen them go and get free agents like, what's his name? Sheldon.
Yeah.
Humongous walls that
Mike Pennell.
Yes,
like that,
will just muddy up the middle of the defense. You want guys like Derek Nottie is good at that. That's like his one big strength. You're going to have guys like that, but do I think it's going to be a top 2 priority this offseason? No.
Yeah.
I do expect them, though, to draft another defensive tackle. And again, depending on what happens with Chris Jones, we're really going to have to see what they do at that position. But my bet is they're going to focus on making sure they give Spags what they need to get to the quarterback and to be able to stop passing lanes and get in the middle of pass lanes, disrupt the passing rhythm of an opposing offense.
Right there with you. Next one's from a Facebook user. I'm guessing this is John Harrison. I agree with this. I love this. I've said this on a few podcasts this week. If the Chiefs, I'm not sure if it's John Harrison. Sorry if it's not. I can't say who you are. I've said this on a few podcasts this week. If the Chiefs lead 24-7 at half like the Lions did, plan the parade. Niners aren't scoring 27 in the second half.
100% agree.
I mean,
look. I'm going to say this
they're
right
not
now.
Scoring 27, period.
The 49ers shouldn't be here right now.
Right.
The Lions should be.
Sure. They beat themselves. They straight up beat themselves.
Yeah, I'll give the Niners credit for fighting back, and Brock Purdy finally decided to play some good football down the stretch at the end of the game. But the Lions, everyone talked about, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to defend Dan Campbell for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I heard nothing but criticism about him going for those fourth downs.
Stuck to his guns, man.
Guys, that's what's literally gotten the Lions to where they were. And second of all, those plays worked. They just dropped the ball.
Yep.
The Goff had Reynolds on the money on 4th and 2. They made plays. The only mistake that Dan Campbell made in that game, the real only costly decision he made was running on that goal line play that forced them to use a timeout at the end of the game. So they had to onside kick because they only had 2 timeouts left. If he would have not ran that play and just tried to throw for a pass, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you still have 3 timeouts, and you're giving the ball back to their team, which gives you an opportunity to get the ball back. That's where he screwed up. The fourth down stuff, I agreed 100% because they were going to work. The guys were open. They just dropped the passes. Jahmyr Gibbs puts a ball on the ground. That's where they messed up. They only ran the ball 7 times in the second half when you're up 3 touchdowns.
With those running backs, man.
You're up 3 touchdowns. Run the damn ball. You were getting whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. I think that when Jahmyr Gibbs put the ball on the ground, Campbell freaked out. So you can't. You have the best offensive line in the NFL.
He hasn't been there before, man. That was his first experience in that tough environment. I get it.
So all respect to the 49ers for having a really good season and surviving the Packers and surviving the Lions. But to that point, yes, if the Chiefs have that type of lead against the 49ers in this game,
it's a wrap.
Patrick Mahomes is not losing that game. It doesn't. When was the last time you saw Patrick Mahomes have a 3-touchdown lead and lose?
Bro, we only needed 11 points to beat the best team in football last week. We only needed 11 points.
We will have plenty to talk about next week, guys. It's going to be, I promise you.
We got a whole other week.
You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. James T. Kurt on YouTube.
In the house.
What do you honestly, he's got 3 back-to-back-to-back comments here.
Cool.
What do you honestly feel about all the salty fans who probably aren't real fans of the football anyways? How do you two dismiss their conspiracy rigged theories? Oh, these are fun, man. This is entertainment.
Oh, for me, I enjoy it because of the fact that I know it doesn't affect anything. It's all non-starter conversations because it's all based out of bitterness.
Yeah.
You notice that it isn't anybody that actually enjoys the game of football and knows it and understands it that actually are entertaining thoughts like this. It's always the fringe casual fans that came there through another third-party member that doesn't really understand football, doesn't break down the X's and O's. They just see a meme or they see some bullshit Photoshop picture of, well, that means that it's going to be the Niners and Ravens in the Super Bowl because that one TV guide thing said that. It was clearly Photoshop, guys.
Yeah.
It's like your aunt on Facebook that shares all those dumb memes that are, this Jesus was in this toast. Like, those are the people that believe shit like that. So for me, like Trevor said, it's just entertainment.
Yeah.
Because we all know better. You can't actually full-fledged rig a game of football. You can have really bad officiating. You can influence an outcome here and there, but you can't rig a game with players and all the different intricacies that come through it. The Chiefs making the Super Bowl is not rigged because, again, and I'm going to show you guys these stats this next week, and if you want to just go ahead and see it yourself, go watch the recent episode of First Things First when Nick Wright specifically shows, guys, that the Chiefs have been getting actually fewer calls than most teams, and the teams they go up against get fewer penalties against them when they face the Chiefs.
Right.
If this was rigged for the Chiefs to make this happen, I can't believe we're entertaining it, but it's a question. We'll answer it. If this was rigged for the Chiefs, we would see it being rigged for the Chiefs, and it's clearly not, guys. I think what happened is people are sick of the success, and they've seen some right calls be called in big games that have benefited the Chiefs, like the 𝚂𝙿𝙾 tackle in the Bengals game when Patrick Mahomes got knocked out of bounds.
Yeah.
That's roughing the passer.
Yeah, he was out of bounds.
Or unsportsmanlike, or was that
a late hit?
Roughness?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a late hit.
Patrick was completely out of
It
bounds.
sucks, but
Bradbury, who admitted to holding Juju Smith-Schuster,
and we
gets
have
called for a hold.
footage.
And there's literal footage of James Bradbury pulling Juju's jersey.
Yeah.
So you guys consider and call it conspiracies. I call it just a basis of fact. Those are the right calls made, and that's why the Chiefs did benefit off those.
Sure.
We can't sit here and pretend like the Patriots didn't benefit off a myriad of bad calls. Peyton Manning didn't get calls here and there. Joe Montana didn't get calls there. It happens. But if you really want to sit here and say the Chiefs are getting special treatment, just go look at the numbers and you'll realize how false that is.
Yeah, no, when I read stuff like that, when I see the conspiracy stuff, or when I see like the rig talk, it's just one of those moments for me where I'm looking at them like they're a little toddler. I'm like, aw, that's
you're a little stupid one.
You're you're creative. It's cute. That's really cute. Aw,
you watch YouTube.
That's how I see it, bro. And honestly, if we're being real, this is the Patriots' fault. because the Patriots dynasty, the Patriots run, their dominance and their wins, a lot of that is married to a lot of cheating scandals. And since then, obviously there hasn't been another dynasty, but now that there is another dynasty, I think fans are jaded by dynastic runs because they think, oh, something else has got to be going on because the success of them. Because the last time we've seen this kind of success was the Patriots, and they were married to multiple cheating scandals. And the fact that there hasn't been one, people have to get creative and have to find some kind of reason why this is happening. Because one, it's not happening to their team, and why can't they have it? Because I guarantee if you ask any one of these fans from any one of these teams, would they trade their team for ours? Would they take Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey on their team? Yes, they would.
Yep.
Would they take Andy Reid as their head coach? Yes, they would. All these teams would trade, all these fan bases would trade spots with us immediately if you ask me that question. But yet, here they are on the outside looking in and saying it's rigged.
Yep.
They want to be where we're at. So think about it that way.
Our brother Jared put something in the chat as well. I want to give him a shout out on this when we're talking about the rushing deficiencies on defense.
Yeah.
He said Bears, Jags, Vikings, and Pats all in top 10 rush D didn't help much. Exactly.
Facts, dude.
And again, it's not wrong to have a good, dominant rush defense. It is. It's good to have it.
Yeah.
But if you have your druthers and you're like, look, what are we going to specialize on as a defense? Stopping quarterbacks in a quarterback-driven league, or being really good at stopping running backs that don't really dictate the outcome of games?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with door number one. So, yes, it is frustrating at times. It's not fun to watch because it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. But I would take that over a defense that's getting shelled in the pass game, like we saw the Chiefs in 2021, where they had like Mike Hughes and scrubs like that as their cornerbacks.
Yeah, man.
It was bad. It was real bad, man. And that team still went to the AFC Championship, by the way. But I digress. I think that, 100%, you want to have as good of a defense as possible. But I think if you had to choose, I think that's a spot where you're willing to not be as great against the run game.
Also, Jared, you need to change that profile picture, bro.
Yeah, what in the hell, dude?
Yeah, that's like 3 kids ago. Yeah, you look like you're 12.
Yeah, you have like 2 more chins, dude. Where's the other chins at? I missed there's no goatee now? God, Jared.
You need to update that shit.
You're fooling the people, man.
Next question is from our guy, James D. Kirk. Some, not all social media talking heads were saying that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson crumbled on the weight of winning Some, not all social media talking heads were saying that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson crumbled on the weight of winning for his race. This is a sticky question, so you can skip it if you like.
No, we don't have to skip that.
I think I know what you're saying.
I heard. So Trevor and I, this might shock you guys, but open your eyes for a second. We're 2 white guys, so we see things. Breaking fucking news, but yeah. So I feel that our perspective doesn't always have a lot of validity because we haven't experienced certain things that other people of different ethnicities have in this country in particular. So I always come from a perspective of, listen, this is just coming from a guy that doesn't have the actual experience to know these things. What I will say is I did hear Ryan Clark, and I believe it was 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺 that was saying on ESPN that if Lamar Jackson was to win this game, go to the Super Bowl, it will make things interesting. And I think Dan Graziano actually said it too, where it was, it's going to change the way that maybe some teams look at quarterbacks as far as, can the guys more of Lamar Jackson style win in the postseason? It's going to, and I do believe that part.
Yeah.
The part that I did, it didn't really affect me at first because I wasn't looking for it to. But when I listened back again, and Ryan Clark tried to explain himself, which always tells you that maybe he didn't explain it well in the first place. From what he was saying and how I heard it was, Lamar is representing a certain quarterback that, although we've had other black quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes in particular,
quarterbacks,
he's a mixed quarterback. There are quarterbacks out there that aren't as how we say articulate or don't sound quote unquote as educated.
Ain't the soundbite kind of guy.
Yeah. He's the guy that has his hair out, and a lot of people want that buttoned up, and they want you to be very particular. I understand what Ryan Clark was trying to say.
They want that Travis Kelce skin fade that's going crazy right now.
But I do think that Ryan was basically saying that Lamar is representing a type of black athlete that maybe others don't.
Right.
Because some of them grew up a little more privileged, whereas Lamar didn't. And he came from a life that is a little bit harder to come out of.
Sure.
And that's what makes his story that much greater, and guys like him that much greater. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. I'm not going to be one that says Ryan Clark's wrong for saying that, or that's insensitive to other black quarterbacks that have accomplished what they've accomplished. I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
I think that Ryan was speaking from a place of experience and seeing people that don't make it out a lot of times get opportunities to do that and how powerful that is. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So just if take it for what it's worth from a white dude, that is what I saw it was, and I think it is something to celebrate for guys like Lamar Jackson to have success, because more times than not, the numbers are against them, and it's harder for people like Lamar Jackson to come from where they've come from to look like that, where everyone's profiling you, everyone is making it that much more difficult. Because I remember Lamar coming out of college, a Heisman winner.
Yeah.
People are saying this dude should go to wide receiver.
Right, or
You know
play
how
running back.
disrespectful that shit is?
Yeah, man.
That's super disrespectful. A man who's more than proven himself and continues to prove himself
Has
as
to be
a
a
quarterback
two-time
in this
MVP.
league. So yes, him winning would change a little bit of what's going on, because to that point, Doug Williams, he changed things.
Yeah.
The first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
You don't think that added to, oh, you know what? Maybe a black guy can't play quarterback in this league.
Or Cam Newton made it to a Super Bowl. Obviously lost to the great Peyton Manning. But
Yeah, it's like Shane Gillis, dude, the comedian, when he talked about Jackie Robinson.
The moment the white people were no longer cool.
You know, we got old Curly Bill here. You know how white people used to talk like that.
They say he's the best athlete alive.
Yeah, the Jackie Robinson. Oh fuck! And your whole like the white guy voice just changed. Like there's been an evolution in sports continually over the last 100+ years, and once you see that all people of all colors can play sports and play certain positions, it changes the perception of things.
Yeah.
And I think that Lamar winning a Super Bowl, getting to a Super Bowl, would change that. Unfortunately, he just has Patty the GOAT in front of him that wouldn't let him do it. So,
and this is strictly a quarterback argument and talking point, because we've seen Black American, African American, whether they're half white, half black, or black, whatever you want to say. I know there's a conversation, there's an internal dialogue there. I know that exists very much so in the black community, but we've seen dominance from African American black men throughout every position in football. The quarterback is kind of the remaining one. Can a running first African American black quarterback win the big one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's already happened, but and we've even, like I said, the likes of Cam Newton didn't win the big game, but he got to the big game. Cam Newton was a purely running quarterback. Arguably still to this day the most dominant outside of Lamar, breaking all these rushing records, and will be the most dominant running quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. And even I said, if the Chiefs didn't win, I was rooting for Lamar. Yeah. I loved the Ravens. I had them in the AFC Championship game this year. So I expected them to be there. I had high expectations for that team this year, and they did it until they faced the better team. But yeah, I get it, man. And one thing that doesn't care about race or looks and has a blind eye to all that narrative is at the X's and O's.
Yeah.
Right. And Lamar, when you talked about the X's and O's, is one of the best quarterbacks in this league. You put on the blindfold and you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at the success and the wins and what he's done. Postseason, not so much yet. He's still a very young man, but the man, you look at the accolades. He's got he's going to have 2 MVPs. You look at his numbers and you look at what he's done with his career so far. You don't see who the man is, but you see what he's done. The X's and O's speak for themselves, regardless of what the color of the man is. You got a young buck and a young African American man on the rise already. Had maybe the best rookie season of all time in CJ Stroud, who's on his way as well. So I mean, there's a lot of things changing. The quarterback position has changed a lot over the last just 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Especially for young black boys trying to become quarterbacks, and they don't have to just be running backs and linebackers and cornerbacks anymore. Right. They don't need to be a star receiver. They can go out there and throw that ball too. So it's an evolution of the game, and in that narrative, it exists, for a reason, because there's been a history behind that. Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, I get it, but I see both sides of it for sure. Final question from our guy James T. Kirk. Final question. Nick Wright had an interesting opinion about the NBA with Colin Cowherd. The NBA aren't doing a good job in passing the baton to younger, more exciting players. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. The problem though with the NBA is I feel like it's a no-win situation, because they are still influenced so heavily by stars that are still there that are older. So I don't know really how the NBA does it. You know what I mean? Because LeBron is such a huge figure. Steph Curry is such a huge figure. Kevin Durant is such a huge figure still. They're playing such great basketball that it's hard to really pivot off those guys, and I mean that literally. To go to these younger superstars, especially with the way, and I don't want to sound like an old head here, but I think the way that the game is played right now, even though the talent has never been greater, I think the way the game is played now by a lot of young guys, it turns off a lot of viewers, because viewers don't want to see just a bunch of three-pointers jacked up.
Right.
They don't want to see, basketball, 2 dribbles and a shot. They want to see fluidity. That's why college basketball is still such a big thing, because it's more of a quote-unquote team style of basketball that's played. We see whenever the young American guys go to the other sides of the world and play, those teams tend to play better team basketball than America's team, because even though they have the individual talent over here, it isn't the same basketball that's being played, because it's more of a fundamental style of basketball that's played in other parts of the world. And so I think that right now it's difficult for the NBA to transition that, plus with the fact that a lot of the young studs in today's NBA are also guys from other parts of the world, and I don't think that connects as well with the American viewer. So they're coming up against a lot of things right now, man. I expect it to balance out within the next 5 to 10 years, but I do think these next few years are going to be difficult for them to transition.
I'm gonna say this. I have an opinion here. I think there's a topic that's not being touched on here, and what that's in the mix of this is, I think. Listen, I watch a lot of basketball. I love watching basketball. It's my favorite sport. And I watch a lot of these young stars. Some of them aren't gonna catch a stray here, because of some of them that do this. But there's a lot of young stars. These young exciting stars that are very disrespectful to the older heads, if you will, the LeBron James. We've seen a lot of guys be very disrespectful to these, and it's a different vibe nowadays. Back in the day when Allen Iverson played up against MJ, even after he crossed him, he still reverenced and paid homage and dapped him up and showed respect, and showed humility towards MJ. And a lot of guys that play, a lot of the older legends, when Kobe was coming up, he was always paying homage to the guys that were before him. That's changed, man. Yeah. There's a lot of disrespect from these young guys nowadays. We've seen the Ja Morants be extremely disrespectful to the guys that are before him. Yeah. In a lot of ways, man. And we've seen, maybe not as big as stars, but like you said, there is a lot of foreign, the Lucas, who I think is arguably the best player in the world right now. He's not from here, but he is very humble in a lot of ways too. But even then, I see a lot of, like Anthony Edwards, I'll give him. I think Anthony Edwards is one of those guys that's kind of like an old school kind of throwback kind of player in a way. But there's just been a lot of, we've seen LeBron get far too much disrespect from a lot of these young players coming in. He had to teach them the hard way, and put these guys in their place a lot of times. But it just doesn't feel the same. It'd be a lot easier for LeBron and these other guys that are on their way out, the Steph Currys and stuff, to pass the baton a little easier if these guys were showing a little bit more respect. A lot of these kids coming into this league very disrespectful and on a high horse for some reason. And I don't know what that is exactly, but I've seen a lot of that. And the Dylan Brookses, and I know he's not a star or like a major exciting player, but a lot of these guys that come in, they try to like one up and disrespect instead of showing reverence. So I think there's a little bit of a different energy nowadays with these younger players compared to the ones of the earlier years when they would come in, they would be a little more humble. There's a little bit lacking of that, So maybe that's a reason why. And maybe there's a cultural reason within the game to why that baton is seemingly difficult to pass. But I think that as far as basketball, I think basketball is in good hands. You got the Lucas, you got the Jokic's, you got the Giannis's, who are still younger guys, still dominating this league at a high level. The Anthony Edwardses and the De'Aaron Foxes and Domantas Sabonis and a lot of these young guys and Halliburton. There's so many great talented guys in this league.
You didn't even mention Wemby. That's how deep.
Well, I mean, he's still blossoming. He's still becoming. We don't even know what he could be yet.
Still Chet at OKC.
Holmgren is
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, I mean, my God, there's so much talent. The league's never been as talented as it is right now. It's insane with these guys and what they're doing. Even Seguin from Miami, that kid is insane. It came out of nowhere, really, if we're being honest. But yeah, a lot of European flair, a lot of guys not from this country. So a lot of things are changing and in flux. But I think there is a respect issue that is a little lacking, though, which makes it a little more difficult for these guys to pass the baton to these guys that, maybe they don't feel like they deserve it because they haven't shown respect. You know what I mean? So I think that's a little nugget that isn't being talked about enough. Next question from our guy, Omar. With multiple contracts coming up with Bolton, Creed, Jones, Snead, and Trey Smith, do you trade or release Joe Thuney and Justin Reed?
I'd have to go look at Justin Reed's contract. I don't think they would be able to trade. I don't think that trading Justin Reed would be a realistic option. I think they would probably cut him or let him walk, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he has no guaranteed money left on his contract after this year, because it was a 3-year deal in totality, I believe, for Justin Reed's contract. Let me go look that up real quick. But when it comes to Joe Thuney, as long as Joe Thuney's the player he is, I don't want him going anywhere. Because of the fact, he's 31 now, but if Joe Thuney is able to continue to play the way he's playing into his early 30s, mid 30s, I don't think he's going anywhere. So yeah, Justin Reed signed a 3-year, $31.5 million contract with the Chiefs in 2021. His contract is so that they have a potential out after this season. The Chiefs would get out. It would save only $3.5 million in dead cap. And if they were to, release him June 1st, pre-June 1st release, the Chiefs would save over almost $11 million in cap space if they let Justin Reed go. I do believe the Chiefs like Justin Reed a lot. I don't believe, though, that they're going to be looking for a long-term deal with him because he's a safety. And if we've seen with the way the Chiefs have handled the safety position, they got Tyrann Mathieu here at 27 years old. By the time he was 29, they were already moving off of him. Justin Reed's 20. He'll be 27 next season, so he's not old. But I don't know if the Chiefs are looking to pay him long-term money because his market value, according to SpotRack right here, and I'll pull the market, is around $8 million a year. Are they wanting to spend $8 million a year for the next 3 years on a safety? Especially when they just got, Brian Cook as a safety, Chamari Connor can play safety, Deion Bush, Nick Collins, Nick Collins? Did I say Nick Jones? I'm sorry, Nick Jones.
Nick Jones, yep.
Guys like that, I think, are going to be some of the players that Brett Veach is going to want to start sprinkling in a little bit more instead of spending a lot of money on veteran players. But when it comes to Joe Thuney, and I can look his contract up as well, because I don't think that he's a guy the Chiefs are planning on moving off of. Because although guys like Nick Allegretti can play in position for him for a spill, he's a long-term answer. And again, even though he's older, I don't think he's a guy that the Chiefs are looking to move off of, because they gave him a 5-year, $80 million deal back in 2021. His contract. So yeah, they have a potential out with him as well, but he would still have basically $22 million against the dead cap. If they did a release, a June 1st release, he would only save the Chiefs $5 million in cap. I think Joe Thuney's worth that $5 million. If they traded him post June 1st, their cap savings would go up $16 million. But are you going to trade Joe Thuney in order just to save that money, or you want to have a facilitated guy that's still under contract for the next 2 seasons? He's under contract until 2025, and he'll only be 33 years old at that time. We've seen offensive like Zach Martin. Right. Zach Martin's like 34 years old now, and he's still been one of the best guards in the league. He got hurt this year, but still one of the best.
A lot
guards
of offensive linemen age like wine, though.
Exactly.
Those guys play into their latter years.
I ain't moving out Joe Thuney.
Yeah.
To answer that as long as I possibly could.
Yeah, we need him here as long as possible.
Yes.
That's the best at his position. I also just want to throw this comment out there from our guy, Ruben De Cruz. Can't wait for the first Latino quarterback. LOL.
Hey, man, I'm all for it, too.
Sanchez, baby.
I love representation. Well, yeah, he was Spanish, wasn't he?
Yeah, he falls in line. Was he Latinx is what they say? I don't know.
I will agree. I like representation, man.
Of course.
From all cultures, all ethnicities. So, yeah, I'll bring it on, man. I love
Uncle Rico.
I love that Tua, a Polynesian. We have a Polynesian quarterback.
Of course,
I love that.
That's breaking ground right there.
It's great to see, man, because you want to see the sport. I mean, because they're going to keep playing games overseas. Might as well have as many people from different countries. That's why I love the UFC. There's dudes from all over the damn world, man.
Yeah, that's a mix,
I love that. I would love for the
sure.
NFL to keep moving that way.
But yeah, shout out Mark Sanchez. Omar, off topic, but did anyone else feel the ground shaking last night?
Oh God, I feel like this is a setup question.
No, but there was reportedly there was a massive earthquake, pretty massive earthquake in Oklahoma last night, and there was apparently there was ripples. I didn't feel anything, me personally, so I don't know. I know a lot of people are online. We're talking about it's around like midnight, 1 o'clock. I seen a lot of people on social media talking about, do y'all feel that? Oh, I felt that, blah blah blah. I didn't feel anything over here, but I know a lot of people that were saying that they did. So I know Oklahoma got shook pretty good.
Shit, I hope everybody's all right.
Yeah, I haven't heard much else about it, but Omar, I did not personally feel any of that, my guy. I was laying in my bed, but I didn't feel anything. So no. Last 2 questions from our guy, Brian Parrott. What is our answer to CMC and the scheme?
Well, we're going to break this down a lot next week.
Yeah,
what I will tell you guys is the scheme. So the Kyle Shanahan scheme is a culmination of West Coast offense and run zoning, zone blocking. Yes, yep. Which is very deadly and effective against defenses that usually play a lot of zone. That's not what the Chiefs play. The Chiefs play a lot of man. So this is going to be a bad matchup from the get-go for the Shanahan offense, and this is why Steve Spagnuolo's had a lot of success against Kyle Shanahan since he's been the Chiefs DC. When it comes to CMC, look, this kind of falls in line with everything I've been saying about the ground game, because we know that CMC, although is very deadly in the pass game, the majority of what he does is in the run game. He's a running back by nature. He's a running back, period. I don't think that Steve Spagnuolo is going to be looking to shut down CMC in this game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think what he's going to want to do is keep CMC as a running back, though. I don't think he's going to want him to catch the ball, because what that will do is open up the offense for Brock Purdy, make it that much easier for him to hit Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Jennings, guys like that downfield, setting up RPOs, things like that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to just limit CMC as just a running back. Keep the spies, keep the flat protected with Christian McCaffrey when he breaks on the outside with those wheel routes. I think that's what you're going to see Spags do. As far as the scheme is concerned, though, guys, what it's really just going to come down to is whether Brock Purdy can make the throws or not. Because this offense
Or
is
can we disrupt his timing?
Yes.
That's the main thing.
That Shanahan offense is poetry, man.
Yep.
He's going to, this whole
Rhythm.
time off is going to be about how open can I make guys this week?
Yeah.
How open can I make Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk? How open can I make those guys downfield? If the Chiefs can disrupt that, it's not going to matter how open he finds those guys. It's can Brock Purdy get the ball to them in time?
And we saw LaFleur, who comes from the same tree, a similar scheme, not the exact same scheme.
Oh, it's very similar.
A very similar scheme, and that scheme ate us up with lesser talent.
Nah, they have a much better quarterback, though, I would say.
Well, but lesser talent as far as the receivers.
And it was in Green Bay.
The youngest offense in football. Yeah. They ate us up in that scheme. So we definitely got to be on our P's and Q's in that and get pressure. And Brock Purdy, once you pressure him, he can fall apart quickly. We saw the Ravens do just that. I do want to throw out one comment from our brother Jared here. Jared said, my bed was definitely shaking, LOL. Hey, thank you for changing that profile picture, though, bro.
About damn time, man.
That's a much better picture there. But yeah. Shaking beds. I didn't feel anything, but apparently Jared's bed was a rocking. Good for you, buddy.
And a 6.9.
No more children. Okay, so Brian Parrott, last question. If we lost Spags, would Andy be enough?
Well, no. Obviously, you're gonna have to get another DC. Yeah. I would say though that
I guess
that's a massive loss.
Yeah.
But there's what I love about the NFL, man, is it always just seems to be there's always a plethora of names out there that can come in and maybe not do as good of a job, but can be a guy that can facilitate for a year or two until you find somebody that you think is either the guy or that guy ends up becoming the guy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be honest, the Seahawks just hired McDonald, the DC for the Ravens. If we're being honest here, how many people knew who he was a year ago?
Right.
He's a 36-year-old DC that had a great year, and now he's a head coach in the league. So I would have the faith that Andy Reid would find either a younger guy that's up and coming or a dude that's been around for a while that has a proven track record that wants to come in here and run a defense that's similar to the scheme that Spags run, because obviously you have guys in place that play for that scheme. You wouldn't want to change everything up automatically and then screw things up. I would think it would be a blow because obviously Spags, I just got him talking a couple hours ago about how I think he's the best DC we've ever had in the league, most successful. That's a big blow, but I would trust that Andy Reid, who's been able to always find guys, plug and play in his coaching staffs and keep things rolling, that he would find that guy, that next DC, and maybe he would work from within. Maybe it'd be a guy from within. Maybe it's Joe, the defensive line coach. My God, I'm such an idiot. He came from Jacksonville.
Yeah, man. Oh, my God.
Joe Cullen. Joe Cullen.
Yeah.
So Joe Cullen, he can maybe they rise him up as the next DC. Who's to say? Andy Reid likes to work that way. He likes to lift people up from within. Maybe that would be the case.
Listen, I love a good hypothetical, but Spags ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, it's a fair question to
ask. Sure. Because we've seen all these DCs getting hired as head coaches or higher positions. So I get it. Yeah, but we're locking him in a safe somewhere.
Yeah, I think people need to understand, not to keep prolonging this conversation, but
that was the last question. So.
Yeah, I think people need to understand, guys, that these coaches are not going anywhere because of the fact that they know that this runway is still, like, they got a lot of runway still.
Why would Spags leave this?
This isn't, like, Patrick Mahomes isn't 36 years old.
And Spags has had his shot at being a head coach before, and he didn't do too well.
He's not going to become a head coach anyway this year.
There's no openings.
There's no openings.
Yeah.
So my point is that I think people need to understand that sometimes guys are okay where they're at because they know how good it can be for them. And furthermore, coordinators are making good money now. They're making head coach money that coaches were making 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson stayed with the Lions because he's still going to make about $3 million this year to be the OC for the Lions.
Well, it's because the Swifty money that's coming into the NFL now. Y'all can thank us for all that. So,
thanks, Taylor. We appreciate it.
It's all.
No, but I'm serious. I think guys like Matt Nagy, Steve Spagnuolo, Andy Reid, they know that, dude, if we stay here for another 3 or 5 years, the Chiefs could legitimately win 3 to 5 more Super Bowls. That isn't crazy to say. The Chiefs could legitimately win 3 to 5 more Super Bowls by the time it's 2027.
Yeah.
It really could happen, guys. This is a dynasty, and I think this could become one of the more unprecedented dynasties in the NFL, and they see how special that is and how they play a pivotal role in that. And if they're not too old, they still love the game, and they still see the opportunities, why would they move off?
Yeah.
This is what they've been working for their whole careers.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, he's already being recognized, at least in our eyes, and by, I'm sure, not just us, as the best to ever do it at that coaching.
Ignore, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, why would he not add to that and continue to go down arguably in history as the best defensive coordinator of all time?
Right.
All right, man. That was it, bro. Man, you guys were lit today, man.
Fantastic.
So many.
How else can I say it? Our brother's talking about hitting it.
Yeah.
We're talking about, different scenarios with the Chiefs in this game that I'm trying so hard not to talk about yet. You guys almost got me a couple times. Yeah. I gave you little tidbits. Be thankful for that, because I promise you we're not going to want to miss next week's show, because we're going to have a jam-packed show of what we're going to see in this one. I've already gotten started, so you guys know that means it's going to be a fuck ton.
Yeah.
By the time we're here in 6-7 days from now, I'm going to have tons more notes to go over. Trevor's going to have to just probably sit there and just park it for a minute, because I'm going to be going off. But I'm sure he's going to have his own stuff to talk about, and obviously we look forward to that. And we look forward to hearing from you guys every single week. If you guys have not already done it, get on YouTube, because we love getting the comments from Facebook and other places, but sometimes we can't see your name. It just says like Facebook user.
Yeah.
Probably because of your settings or whatever the case is.
It's probably because you haven't liked or subscribed yet.
Yeah.
So if you like or subscribe, you'll probably show your name.
Yes, go, or at least just go to YouTube. If you guys are already on there, subscribe, notify, hit like, all that fun stuff, like Brian always says in the comments.
Yep.
And get in there and get in the chat on the YouTube side of things, if possible. We'd really appreciate that. And like I said, the chat is where it's at. That's what we love doing every single week, that we want to be as community-driven as possible here on the show. We appreciate everyone that's been a part of this, and we hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Trevor Twidwell, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish off every single episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly L's or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
Listen, man, so last show, I gave the L to the Bills Mafia and to Coach McDermott, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, all the above, everyone who was talking mad shit before that matchup, leading into that week. And then, it felt right just to give my last little bit and give them that L for that loss that they took from the Chiefs. I'm going to stay in the flames this week, man. I'm going to take our next victim here, our latest victim in the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Tucker, number 10, wanting to, throw blows before the fight, before the game, before the fight. Might as well have been a fight. It was a one-sided fight. All the talking heads that were leaning into the Ravens, damn near everybody was picking. I mean, America was picking the Ravens. Whether they truly believed the Ravens were going to win or they just wanted the Chiefs to lose, which I think it's the latter. There's a a lot of silence and a lot of goalposts moving now after the fact. After that game the dust is settled, that game is over, and we can now move on. The Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl again. But I just wanted to put one last nail in the coffin to those the naysayers that continue to try to downgrade the greatness of what this Chiefs dynasty is doing. They've used every narrative you can possibly use. Underdogs, hostile environment, more athletic and dangerous quarterback. They said that for not only Lamar Jackson recently, but the week prior to that with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And we took both of them down. And you got pregame, like I said, you got pregame antics by kickers trying to ruffle feathers. And these people I said this last week, with all the talk going into the Bills game, they never learn. And we thought that the Ravens were being smart, and they were for a while. They weren't giving us much bulletin board material, except for a day ahead with Roquan Smith talking about this Cinderella story is going to end, and you got Justin Tucker doing his shit. You got 10 trying to throw blows with our corners. Why? Why do they continue to do this stuff? We're already underdogs. We already have that chip on our shoulder. We already have talking heads we got to hear all week. The Broussards and all these other people, talking about, can they do it? We don't know. They've got to prove it. I don't know what else you guys need. What other example do you need at this point?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's becoming comical at this point. But I love it because we need it. We fuel off this kind of stuff. So please keep it coming. I feel like we've been saying this for years. The doubters are always going to be there, and the disbelief from what's actually happening in real life, the denial of reality. But once again, we have another victim here, man. And all respect to Coach Harbaugh, love him. All respect to Lamar Jackson. We've already gloated on that guy enough on this show. He's an incredible player, an incredible athlete, an incredible person. He's betted on himself, and he's done nothing but to be a success story in his life. But with that being said, with that gloating being said, lessons had to be learned. L's had to be taken. So for that, Baltimore, Justin Tucker, Roquan Smith, all the above, 10 on the defense or on the offense. Or on defense, I'm sorry. He got blown up, and Rashee Rice got that lick on him in that game. I don't know if you all saw that. That was incredible. He could put that target on his back, and Rashee took advantage of that situation. That was fun to see that. Put him on his ass. All y'all, all the fans bitching and moaning on Twitter, talking about this game is rigged. You were supposed to win this game, but you didn't. America was backing you, and that wasn't enough. Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Do me a solid favor and hold this L.
I'm going to give a W first, foremost, because it needs to be recognized. Usually I think people will play clips of guys like Charles Barkley whenever they say something dumb because it's easy and because he's such a polarizing figure. It's easy whenever he says, and he does say a lot of dumb things a lot of times that you have to kind of roll your eyes and say, oh, that's old Chuck. But he's always himself. That's what I love about Chuck. He's a very authentic person. There's no fake about him. He's just genuinely who he is. You'll always know that no matter what he's saying or what his opinion is, he's coming from a place of being a genuine human being, an authentic human being. I like to think a person with a really good heart.
Yeah.
And I think that was on full display this last week on NBA on TNT. We know that's the best sports crew out there. Shaq, Kenny, Charles, and Ernie were having just a normal conversation. And Charles did something that I did not expect to see or hear this week, and I think it's something that we definitely need to bring up on this show that I think is really cool. And if you haven't seen this yet, I hope you guys enjoy it. This is Charles Barkley on NBA on TNT this week.
You know what I want to say? Do it. I read an article yesterday. Tony Snell?
Yeah. Needing to be signed.
By the end of this week, because he's got 2 kids with autism, and he needs to play to the end of the year to get a 10-year medical to help him take care of his 2 autistic kids. I'm hoping, man, the NBA has been great to all of us sitting up here, and you guys are going to be playing basketball forever, making gazillion dollars. I hope one of you guys sign Tony so his 2 autistic kids can get great medical care. I read that article.
Or it's the league just Adam Silver comes in and it makes an exception and he gets the it's only 40 games, so he can make.
I'm just telling you,
that's an easier way.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I hope a team signs him for the rest of the season because, I don't know a lot about autism. I'm not gonna say that, but man, I know it's got to be expensive to have 2 young kids with that situation. So, I'm hoping the NBA. We always talk about what a family we are.
Right.
Let's sign that kid for the rest of the season.
Some powerful words from a former NBA Hall of Famer, Charles Barkley. In all seriousness, Trevor and I, we have a couple children in our world that are autistic. And, like Charles said, he didn't really know anything about autism before this whole thing came about, and he still doesn't know a lot of things. And I think people are still as a whole learning what autism really is, but I think you have to be up close and personal with it before you really can fully understand it. And Trevor and I have had that in our lives. We've seen 2 extremes of it. And to have it out there in the forefront with a former player like Tony Snell, who's out there trying to make a living for his kids, hasn't been on an NBA roster in 2 years. I think the last team he was on was the Pelicans in 2021. Kind of a traveling guy. He was a top 20 pick for the Bulls when he first started. Had a decent career, but the thing about it that I want to point out is just the fact that Charles didn't have to do this, and point out that Tony Snell is out here trying to make a living for his 2 autistic children. That we need to be able to rally around and support people like this that are trying to do something that many people don't really understand. And I have nothing but respect and admiration for people that are out there every single day taking care of autistic children, whether you're a parent of one or a teacher of one. It takes an unbelievable amount of patience and understanding, calmness, and things that I don't have in myself. So when I see, the people that in my life that have autistic children deal with it every single day, I just have an immense amount of respect for that. And I appreciate the fact that Charles made that known. The sad part about the story, unfortunately, is Tony Snell did not get an NBA contract before that deadline came about. And it's really unfortunate that the NBA didn't jump on this. Not that, you're obligated as a team to pay a player if you don't think he can benefit the team, but the storyline around this and the fact that, and I'm just going to say it, the fact that Thanasis Antetokounmpo has a roster spot in this league, but Tony Snell doesn't, is what's kind of wrong with things, because Thanasis has it because of nepotism, because Giannis is one of the best players in the world, and the Bucks will do literally anything to make him happy, and his brother is taking up a roster spot he clearly doesn't deserve, because Thanasis is not a good basketball player at all. Tony Snell is a significantly better basketball player than Thanasis has ever been, and that not to have Thanasis catch strays. My point, though, is I was hoping that at least one NBA team would take this up and make this as much of a feel-good story as possible.
Or at least do the right thing and cover it.
Yeah, something like that, man. But it didn't happen, but I think Charles still made a significant impact in doing this and mentioning it.
It still could get taken care of.
Yeah, and I do think that there's going to be people out there, maybe not in the NBA, that will rally around Tony Snell, and hopefully we can do that. Us as a collective can help him with this, because like I said, not all of us really know what this is all about. And I'm telling you guys right now, just being a third-party member of having autistic children in my family, I know that it's a challenge, and they're gifts to this world too. So shout out to Tony Snell, shout out to Charles Barkley, and everybody that is supporting this situation right now. I thought it was a W-worthy situation, because like I said, Charles did not have to use his airtime to talk about this.
That platform, man.
Tony Snell, he doesn't owe anything to Tony Snell. They may not even really know each other, but the fact is that Charles had the heart to do that. I felt that we needed to have the heart here on this show to do that as well. But you could take that heart and keep it over there, because I also have an L to give. And this one might be a little more heartless, because of the fact that, we hear the word greatness thrown around. Trevor and I spent the majority of this show talking about the greatness of certain players, certain coaches. And I think what happens a lot of times, though, Trevor, is that we mix up what greatness is as an individual and just plain out success, and just say, oh, that makes you the great person that you are. And I think that's a lot of why I feel so strongly about guys like Bill Belichick. Because of the fact that everybody just for years now, since I can remember, have just assumed, oh, he's the greatest coach of all time. Anybody would fire their coach to have Bill Belichick. Like whoever your coach is right now, if you knew you can get Bill Belichick as your head coach, you would do it. Well, that time for testing came about. Bill Belichick has been a free agent since January, if I'm not mistaken, 21st? January, yeah, maybe even longer than that. I think it's been longer than that, where him and the Patriots agreed to mutually part ways. And to this day, Bill Belichick is still a free agent. The coaching time, the hiring spree has gone by. Did not get a head coaching job. And what I did is I made this tweet, and we don't have it on there, Trevor, but I remember, and I always talk about this, in New Year's Day of 2013. New Year's Day, Andy Reid was fired by the Eagles. 7 days later, he was announced as the Chiefs head coach. That's the announcement. That's when Clark Hunt and him talked. No, that was long before that.
We didn't let his ass leave.
The announcement was a week later.
Yeah.
And people say, well, Andy Reid was 54 years old at that time. Bill Belichick's 71, going to be 72. I was told once the Patriots and him parted ways that he would be the number one commodity amongst all these head coaches.
Yeah, Andy Reid had 0 championships at that time, too.
And we've seen Corrales from the Bucks, a 37-year-old OC, McDonald from the Ravens, a 36-year-old DC, get head coaching jobs, but not Bill Belichick.
With 6 rings.
It's almost as if, one, what have you done for me lately really does matter. And two, when you're a curmudgeon who's in his 70s, that everyone just assumes is just the greatest of all time, when you have the ego that Bill Belichick has, the history of cheating scandals, and the fact that you don't want to relinquish any of that power that you had in New England, and you don't want to just be a coach and trust that the GMs, the executives are going to do their jobs, this is where you now are at. This is the difference between him and guys like Andy Reid. Andy Reid, who brought Brett Veach up from the scouting room back with Philadelphia when the kid was in his young or mid-20s, to now saying, hey, you're now the GM, you run that, I run the team. I run the X's and O's. I do this. You give me the guys. That's why Andy Reid is where he's at, and that's why Bill Belichick may never coach in this league again. And I don't say that lightly, because because Bill Belichick, I still think can coach in this league, but I think this has shown over the last 3 or 4 years just how unequipped he is for today's era and how overrated I think his career has been, in large part because the success was so extreme with Tom Brady, and without Tom Brady before and after was not good at all, has a losing record.
Yep.
This is showing, while Andy Reid still won 60 over, he was 62 games over 500 before even having Patrick Mahomes, and is now, in my opinion, the best head coach in football, and is going to be coming after Bill Belichick over these next 3 to 4 years. And again, with Belichick's age, I don't know if there's going to be a team next year that wants to hire him. He'll be another year older, and he'll be out of the game for a whole year. I don't know if that really helps things for a guy at his age with the set in his ways mentality that I don't think is ever just going to go away. I think that this is a massive, massive loss for the legacy of Bill Belichick, man, because his team that he won 6 rings for didn't want him, and then no one else wanted him, and there were 7 jobs available. That's insane to think about. So Bill Belichick and this illustrious career that you have had, but in my opinion has been a little overvalued. You can do me a solid, brother, and
hold this L.
Enjoy whatever the hell it is you do. Whether you're hanging out in Cape Cod all year or you're on TV, which would be hilarious to see and ironic the way he's treated the media all these years, for him to finally go and join the media. That would be hilarious. But this has been a fun show as always. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because we try to give you as much as we possibly could before the week of the Super Bowl. That's where the show's really going to hit off. We still wanted to go over some of these things, guys, and talk with you guys, get some back and forths with you, and we appreciate every single one of you that chimed in and joined in with what we did today, guys. It's been an absolute blast, like it is every single week, and we hope that you guys want to be back, because like I said, in a week's time, we're going to be talking about this Super Bowl matchup. We're going to be talking about what we're expecting in this game, and I could not be more excited. I know Trevor feels the same way, so I hope you guys are strapped in and ready to go. Get your friends to subscribe to the channel as well. Get them in the chats with us. We got a lot of new people, a lot of same familiar faces. We love both, and we appreciate all you guys. So for that, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together on the back end, I'm Lance Twidwell of the Spoken Podcast. Episode 254 is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time, breaking down, previewing, and predicting Super Bowl 58, we out of this bitch.
Later.